What's up, y'all? It's TTC, aka the ThunderConductor, and we back for another YouTube video and Twitch stream. If you're on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring the bell. And if you're on Twitch, make sure you follow and ring the bell. We do this once a week on YouTube and every other week on Twitch. I got a question for y'all. What was your favorite cEDH commander from the Aether Drift set? Of course, y'all saw my last video. I love Hashaton. Being able to discard a Thassa's Oracle, discard a Leveler, discard a Nezahal, discard whatever you want, and be able to get it back for 3 mana, that copy is super powerful. And we've already seen many creators and other amazing brewers take this deck by storm in the cEDH meta. Some people say we like discarding though, but we don't want to do that Esper stuff. We want to do Is It? And they say Captain Howler is the way they want to go. Now, I haven't seen too many brews that really shocked me, but I do believe this is commander have a little potential to do something spicy. So let's see what the community has. But last but not least, TTC wants to talk about the new spicy tech, not of his own, but something of another amazing content creator and brewer. TTC wants to take the time to talk about KETRAMOSE the New Dawn. If you're not familiar, KETRAMOSE the New Dawn is a colorless plus Orzhov commander that is a legendary creature god, okay? It has menace, lifelink, indestructible, and it says KETRAMOSE can't attack or block unless there are 7 or more cards in exile. Okay, whenever 1 or more cards are put into exile from graveyards or the battlefield during your turn, you draw a card and lose a life. Okay, so what I saw from this is like, okay, this is pretty cool. You get to draw cards, you get to, you're limited at 40 life, but we just pull some life gain in there that works. But honestly, I want to take the time to introduce somebody who saw this and said, no, this ain't draw a couple cards and lose a couple life. This is something bigger than that. So I want to take the time to introduce my homie, fellow content creator, and amazing shout out to the Jolly Balloon Land community as well. I want to take the time to introduce B-Rad from High Ground Gaming.
What's going on, T? Thank you for having me. Excited to talk about this deck today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for coming on, brother. Man, like, if for the people who don't know you and everything amazing you've done in the cEDH community, can you please give us a quick introduction and also let us know how you stumbled upon this amazing commander?
Yeah. So my name's Brad, aka B-Rad. I had to go real deep in the tank to come up with my surname. But yeah, I am a content creator, much like yourself. I do a lot of gameplay videos, brewing off-meta commanders. Jolly Balloon Man was one of my first big time self brews that once I saw it leaked, I have a love for, me, I have a love for two color commanders, and definitely 3 drops as well. So when I saw KETRAMOSE leaked the day of, my brain just started spinning, and I was like, oh my gosh, how I can break this. I know I can break this. So yeah, I'm really excited about this deck. There's a lot about it that I'm excited about, but yeah. So if you would like to check out some of my gameplay videos, you can find me at High Ground Gaming, where you can see my stream and videos, and yeah.
And if you all are interested to see all that, in addition to tagging it up here, you can find that link in the description of the YouTube video down below. Well, B, come on, I trust your ability to brew, because we've seen what you've done, the Jolly Balloon Man. But before we get into all the amazing things that come with this super dope KETRAMOSE view brew, I want to take the time to tell the audience, if you're looking for more ways to support the show, we have a plethora. Starting off with our cEDH community through the TC community. You all rock, and you all keep the lights on the way you could not imagine. We do everything from talking about spoilers, brewing, gameplay, everything you can imagine. Please join. It is free to join. But if you want extra perks like playing on our live streams, shouts on our YouTube videos and streams, and also free proxy and discount codes, please check out the Thunder Legion Patreon Discord community. This is amazing, and they keep the lights on in a way even more than they could not imagine. Honestly, I want to give a huge shout out to our Mono Red patrons, Wavy Ashira, Bissy Baxton, The Praetor, and B-Rad. These guys rock, and they keep the lights on in a way that they could not imagine. But if you say, hey, T, I don't want the Patreon, the proxies, or the perks, I just want to say one time for the fun time that I love what you do and I want to support you. Don't worry. Check the link down in the bio. You can keep the lights on and keep me up by just buying me a coffee. But before we get into everything, I want to say lastly, if you're not watching this live on Twitch, I recommend that you increase the playback speed to 1.5x for the best viewing experience. But with it, come on, B, let's talk, brother. Let's talk. KETRAMOSE, brother, talk to me.
Yeah, so KETRAMOSE. So things that reached out to me and pulled on my heartstrings a little bit when I saw this is indestructible. I mean, I love Jolly Balloon Man. It's four toughness. You're not getting it lightning bolted. You're not getting it Orcish Bowmaster off the table. Having a god that's indestructible. I mean, and it's pretty much like Necropotence in the command zone. I mean, I just got really excited. Card draw wins games at the end of the day, and this guy can draw you your deck. But I call it the deck list. If you scroll up a little bit, it's Cannonball Run. I don't know how many people are familiar with what a Cannonball Run is. It's a thing that happens every year where a bunch of crazy ass drivers get together on one side of America in one city, and they say, okay, first person to the other side of America wins the Cannonball Run, and you can win like, I don't know, like $1 million or more now. I don't know. I used to follow it a lot when I was a kid. But so when I started brewing this deck, it's exactly when I started playtesting it, it's exactly what that is. It is you start from point B, and it's just complete chaos to see, you know, if you can get to the finish line first, right? So this deck can kill you on accident. This deck can do a lot. I would not suggest it for somebody that's new to cEDH. This deck has a lot of triggers you need to be tracking, and a lot of things that you know, the way that we both like to brew tea, we like to have win cons after win cons after win cons. You stop me once, I'm going again. You stop me another way. I'm going to try to find a way to just keep digging and keep going. And this deck digs amazingly. And we're going to get into some crazy, crazy things about this deck that I absolutely love. And just, I have to say it. I'm sorry, but I do have to say it. Ristic Study ain't got shit on KETRAMOSE. I said it.
Okay.
I said it.
He said it. He said it, y'all. We gotta actually stop the stream right here. Let's go.
You can't take that back. You can't take it back.
We can't take it back. Ristic Study ain't got shit. Okay. Well, with
that
said, if we dropping bombs, I gotta know more. We gotta know more. So you said we're cannonball running. So we are going from one side of America to the other. So talk to me, like, when we're on this journey, is this journey a turbo journey, a mid-range journey? Are we looking at stacks out the table when we're doing this journey? Like, what would we describe as this deck's archetype?
It's exactly what I love about it. It's a little bit of everything. It pulls from, you can win on turn 2 on accident if you get the right hand. You can just do it. If you get the right cards, you can easily win on turn 2. If you get the right cards. But I mean, it's unlikely, but I mean, turn 3, turn 4, I mean, you're really looking at drawing your deck and going for it.
Gotcha.
With a ton of protection. You're in white, so you can protect yourself. But if you go long game, you can really screw the table too. I wouldn't say this deck's very stacksy, even though the graveyard hate is, I don't know if I'd call it stacksy, but it graveyard hates the crap out of anything. So there's so many decks that bank on graveyard, recursion, you know, underworld breach lines. You're also like milling people while exiling stuff. So like you're hitting win cons of other people. So I wouldn't say it stacks though. It's just you're drawing cards, and the effect of you drawing cards is also just screwing over your opponent. So you know, it just kind of works out that way.
Got you. So we definitely say like mid-range with turbo potential.
Mid-range with turbo potential. If you get the right hand, you can do it, right? But I'd definitely say mid-range.
I respect that. Like, honestly, I really do love that, where a lot of times I talk to people and they're like, you know, I'm trying to build this stacks room, I'm trying to build this. I'm like, I think that's great. I don't ever want to knock people who love playing stacks, but I say, like, if you could have a centralized game plan, and a byproduct of that game plan is you stacks at the table, or you hate at the table in a very unique way, in this connotation or this example being graveyard hate, which is, it cucks breach, it cucks, it's so many strategies that we love playing. Honestly, that's my favorite way to play, because it's like the goal is for you is to win the game through drawing cards. And you can't win through your breach line anymore. That's a nice benefit as well. Yeah, like, that's cool. But I'm trying to win the game. You know what I'm saying? So I love your attack on and approach to this. So when it comes from the mulligan to the winning turn, what mulligans and what different things are we looking for as we're like first approaching this deck? Talk to me, brother.
You're definitely looking to get KETRAMOSE down by turn 2. You're looking to get some kind of graveyard exile effect, hopefully in your opening hand, maybe down turn 1, maybe some, you know, a mana rock or 2. Those are always going to be really nice and important, but you really just want to see anything that says I can exile or flicker something, you know, any kind of exile effect, because once you get KETRAMOSE down on turn 2, if you already have that in play, you're already drawing and losing a life, and it starts right then and there. And you're already, most people hit a fetch off their first turn, you know, so somebody's gonna have something in the graveyard, even if it's you, right? It doesn't matter whose graveyard you're hitting. It just matters that you're hitting a graveyard. And I mean, by turn 2, you're already starting your draw engine. So that's what you're kind of looking like for. Also, any combo piece, and if you can just kind of look at where combo piece, you're gonna see 27 pieces of combo potential over here. So there's a good chance you, as soon as you see your opening hand, you're like, that's the combo I'm going for. And with black, you're able to search for whatever the other piece is. So you know, you can get your combos real quick.
Got you. Okay. Honestly, like the way you've broken this down, I can't see a problem wrong with this list, and we even talked about it yet. So be honest with me, be like, you've set the strengths. Can you go deeper into those strengths and also kind of dabble us a little bit with what some weaknesses you found as you've been brewing this list?
Oh yeah, definitely. So I guess I'll start with the strengths. So strength of this deck is obviously card draw, interaction with your opponents. Everything you're playing is exile. Also, a strength of this is with your commander being indestructible. T, how much have I keep talking to you about how board wipes are just like the perfect thing right now in this meta. Like I always message you, I'm like, oh my god, I just need a board wipe. I need to put a board wipe in Tivit. I'm bringing back board wipes. This deck is perfect for board wipes. Your commander's indestructible. You don't have to worry about it dying to like a board wipe that way. And then there's also in white good board wipes that exile your opponents and doesn't even touch you. So I think right now that's a great place to be, and this commander kind of really offers that to you in these colors. And then on top of that, you have so much potential for like ETB triggers. Its strength is an ETB. You're gonna get shut down by like anything that stops ETBs. If somebody casts like an Elish Norn or something, you know, you're gonna be real sad because a lot of this deck is ETB effects. Because when you're flickering, because you can get in flicker loops, and by flicker looping, you can literally just draw your deck. If you can get into flicker loop, you just keep flickering, and every time you flicker, you're going to draw a card, lose life, draw a card, lose life, draw a card, lose life. And then the other weakness is the table's going to hit you. Every game I've played, the table has just, they're putting all their guys at you. If you don't have KETRAMOSE turned on and you haven't exiled 7 things, the lifelink, menace, you know, indestructible doesn't matter, because you're just going to keep getting hit until you can exile those cards. But there's a lot of people that exile their own stuff. Like I've been playing games where, you know, somebody starts the game and they're already pre-games, they're exiling a card and playing their the gemstone cabinet. You're right. So like you're already like, all right, that's one, and then the next person goes you know, Chrome Mox pitching this, and you're like, that's 2, and you're like, come on baby, keep giving me those cards.
I love this.
And that's before I'm even, you know, exiling stuff. So
that's such a cool mindset.
The deck turns on quick, and once he's turned on, he has menace. Nobody's blocking him, so you're at least gaining 4 life once he's on. And then on top of that, like this deck, it just has a lot of cool cards and a lot of cool synergies, and just I mean, so many combos that you can just get into real quick with drawing so many cards so quickly.
Okay, I want to get straight into combos. I really am really excited, but I do want to bounce off the strengths and the weaknesses you brought up real quick. When I was first looking through this list, I was noticing like things like Children of Korlos and Archivist of Ogma, and what else we see? Of course, we got a lot of stuff that life games.
A lot of weird stuff.
No, that's like the Sarah's Ascendant, and I'm like, oh, like maybe he's trying to like hate out the table in a specific way or going like. But when you brought up like, oh, you take a lot of damage as well, because like a lot of times when people are politicking or whatever they're saying, they're like, okay, who's using their life total, and they read your commander, okay, draw a card and lose a life. They're like, oh, okay, turn sideways the KETRAMOSE player. So I do love that you have built the 99 to support of a resilience, because you said it's more of a mid-range deck. We're trying to like, okay, if we get a turn 2, turn 3 win, that's hot. But at the same time, like we want to be able to be in that turn 4 to 6 range, and that means we have to have the staying power to get there. So I just first wanted to say I love the resilience already, even before we got into it, that you've added to list A. And even B, this is a very small thing, but as you all can see, he's not playing Toxic Deluge. And that was something that poked out to me, and I didn't think about it. His commander's indestructible. He doesn't want to shrink.
Nope, not
creatures
doing that.
out
Nope. Nope. Also, I don't want to pay that life. This deck hurts. It hurts. I mean,
Got you.
It hurts you. And while other people are poking at you, you're hurting yourself. And it is, when I say it is chaos, it is chaos. Every time I play this deck, you are going, oh, I just lost 10 life. Boom, I just gained 10 life. Boom, just lost 12 life. I gained 6 life. And then you're just like this teetering, like while you're playing the game, you're also like teetering this double-edged sword of like, I'm trying to win, but I also could kill myself at any moment. So it is so fun. There's not a moment I'm not just like completely engaged in like trying to figure out like how to win while also how to survive. to get that win.
With that, I definitely hear what you're saying when it comes to like keeping that active mind. Like you're saying, like new players, I love y'all, but this may not be the deck for you with all the triggers. And you saying like, hey, like I want to stay in the game, but as well, like I got to play my deck, so I got to draw the cards. And so I just wanted to say I really love your strengths and your weaknesses. I love that you get to run these overload spells over Toxic Deluge because you get the 2 mana single target removal, and then you also get one that exiles everything, so it just has that effect, that synergistic effect as well, where sometimes the paying 6 mana for a board wipe may not be the best, but drawing a card off it makes you feel a little bit better. So I just want to say I love everything. I love everything I've been seeing so far. So talk to me, brother. Let's talk about win cons.
And I do have to shout out one thing. Before we even get into it, I am not on Necropotence. It is a thing I battle with for this deck back and forth a lot, and it's mostly because you can basically call it KETRAMOSE. It was a coined term on the KETRAMOSE Discord, and somebody called it out, and it's just a perfect way to describe it. It's KETRAMOSE. But yeah, so let's get into the combos. If we're all primed, we're all ready.
Yeah, if I can you actually just like, I love your mind, bro. You said it in a comedic way, but also the truth. That was actually one of the questions we eventually was going to ask. I noticed you see that we're not on Necropotence or Necrodominance, and so you're hitting it right at the beginning.
No, Necrodominance would never put in this deck because I'll get into that right now.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead, bro.
Rest in peace, Necrodominance. They are replacement effects. KETRAMOSE has to see the card go in the graveyard, then it has to see it exile. Rest in Peace replaces that. You will not draw any cards. Necrodominance replaces that. You would never draw a card for the rest of the game off of KETRAMOSE if you had those. Now, Necropotence hits the graveyard, then it exiles it, so that does work with this commander.
Gotcha.
And we're going to get into it. I'm sure everybody's going to call out. You can kill yourself in the end step pretty easily, but this deck is designed not to have that happen. But we'll get into it because once you get into a discard exile loop at the end step, you literally just keep taking 1 damage as you keep discarding, drawing, and you just have to keep going to clean up. So it is very easy to, like I said, kill yourself with this deck if you're not doing the right things or you don't have it built the right way. But I have taken all that into consideration. I've put probably well over 40 hours in this deck since they leaked this card, and I've been nonstop thinking about it. It keeps me up at night.
I love the passion. So thank you, brother, thank you so much for that clarification on Necrodominance and Rest in Peace and the replacement effects and how it interacts with your commander. That's very helpful, y'all. Keep that in mind. So go ahead, brother. Win cons and combos. Yeah. Talk to me, brother.
Win cons. Yeah, let's just start at the top. So this deck is a recursion deck. It is you're trying to get Abdel Adrian as your #1 goal to get into your graveyard, because once you combo that with an Animate Dead, you can keep getting into a loop of Abdel, return to the battlefield. When Abdel comes in the battlefield, then you can exile the Animate Dead that's attached, that you just cast to attach to it. Gotcha. And then you can also pick a couple other things. What's nice about Abdel is you can start hitting your own mana rocks. And then once you pull those out, now you're also getting infinite mana while also doing infinite draws until you want to stop. And so basically at this point you can draw your deck. Once you have that line, if nobody interacts with it, you're drawing your whole deck while making 1/1 soldiers. So you can make infinite soldiers and infinite card draw until you want to stop it.
Got you.
100%. And what this also does is, we'll get to some other things, is like Altar of the Brood. So whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent puts the top card of his or her library into the graveyard. So with Abdel, while you're also making 1/1 soldiers, say you're exiling 3 or 4 things under Abdel as you do the loop. Now you have 6. That's 6 triggers. That you're making 4. You're making 4 soldiers each time. Everybody at the table is now milling, 6 permanents or 6 from their library every time you do this loop. And all of a sudden you can mill the whole table and say, while you keep the loop going. And you're also just getting a bunch of 1 white soldiers. And as you're drawing while this happens, you have a lot of outlets to either not be hurting yourself for the 1 life, or you have abilities that are going to let you kill Abdel on the stack when you're ready to stop the loop of hurting yourself. And once you've drawn the right things, you say, all right, now I just kill my commander, or I sack my commander to something and people can't interact with that. And now I just keep doing the loop until everybody's milled out and I have infinite soldiers.
Got you.
So Abdel is the main win line you're trying to go for.
Got you. Okay, respect. Okay, received. Keep going, brother. Keep going.
So also how my brain works. Everything needs to be connected, intertwined. There needs to be multiple ways that these things work together, and these things, have triggers for different cards. So you're not just banking on, I need 1 card and 1 card. Like these 2 cards only go together and they have no other synergy. Everything has to be connected. 100%. So Alter the Brood, while I can mill the table, at the same time I'm playing a little thing called Planar Void, which is the strongest card in this entire deck. So 1 black. This is the most broken shit. I can't believe I picked up as many as I could, because there's no way this thing doesn't. Once people figure it out, this card is broken in this deck. Planar Void says whenever a card is put into a graveyard, remove that card from the game. So this, compounded with Alter the Brood, means if you have KETRAMOSE in play, you play a fetch land. The fetch land hits the table. Everybody mills 1 card from their library. I draw 3 cards, lose 3 life. I crack my fetch. I go get another land. I put into play. I draw another 3 cards, lose 3 life. Because the way that Planar Void and Alter the Brood work, KETRAMOSE will see each as a separate trigger. So even though KETRAMOSE says whenever 1 or more cards are put into exile from the graveyard, that means if you have a spell that says exile, so let's go to Fairy Macabre, it's somewhere in here. It says exile 2 cards from a graveyard for by discarding it.
Right.
That's only going to draw you 1 card and you're going to lose 1 life. But because the way Alter the Brood works, every trigger is a separate trigger. Once it goes to the exile, you're going to draw those 3 cards. So you can keep, now once you get 6 cards in hand, just imagine the things you can do with 6 brand new cards in hand. You got a new land, you play this deck's loaded with 1-drops. Play another 1-drop. Boom, now everybody mills another 3 cards. You just drew 9 cards and took 9 damage in that turn. But this is cEDH. I don't care. Like, unless you're popping me real hard as a table, I can take 9 damage and gain 9 cards. But that's why you have things like, there's a lot of things in this deck that are going to gain you life, like while you're drawing. Like, KETRAMOSE itself, Confessor is for the discard. You have discard chains in here that's going to gain you 1 life anytime somebody discards a card. You're also going to have things like Ellis Ill Sadistic Pilgrim. Every time one of those creatures come in, you gain that life back. So as you're looping that creature and you're drawing those cards, you're also just gaining life back. So there's a lot of different ways. Shieldred's going to gain you 2 life, so you're actually banking an extra life every time you draw a card. So now you're positive, you're life positive. So now you do a 40 card draw, you just gained 40 life and drew 40 cards while you're doing that chain. And you can do it really fast. You can get these things down really fast because you're in black. You have good things that say, hey, I'm to get Calling the Week, I'm gonna sack a 1/1 Confessor, get 4 mana, throw Shieldred down, and now I'm gonna go into a loop where I start drawing all these cards and gaining all this life. So there's a lot of cool stuff this deck can do, and Alter the Brood plus Planar Void will pretty much help you draw your deck. And while you're doing that, you can eventually start casting things. You hit your rocks, you get those down. Now you just keep getting more and more mana as you keep going. You're in control of how that works. So you're in control of when you want to stop until you get to end step. And that's a whole nother conversation, because that's where we're talking about you can kill yourself pretty easily if you're not careful. So that's the Altar of the Brood is really powerful. Also, like, I played a game that I just posted. I hit everybody's Thassa's. I hit 2 people's Thassa's Oracle, exiled them. I hit Force of Wills. I hit, you know, you're doing these loops, and not only are you drawing 9 cards, you're milling everybody at the table, like all their cards as well. So they just lost 3 cards that are in exile, and now you're hitting win cons, you're hitting other things. So while you're going for your combo to get there, you're also milling the table and messing up what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Which is why we play things like Angel's Grace. so while you're doing this, hey, guess what? I don't die now. Like, I can feel comfortable going through this entire line. I'm not gonna die. But the problem is things like Angel's Grace. Every time you go to that next discard, these things will leave the stack. So you can't just cast an Angel's Grace in your end step if you're going into a discard loop. It ceases to exist. This is something I learned. You can't just go ahead and Flare of Fortitude to keep yourself from losing your life at the end step, because it's just going to fizzle.
Yeah.
That's why I have things like Flare in this deck. Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, yeah, I was saying notably, yeah, the big thing about that is when you're trying to leverage your cleanup step, things that say until end of turn, those effects end during at the beginning of the cleanup step. So you're 100% right that unfortunately, though Angel's Grace works fantastically if you're just doing it like during your main phase Abdel loops, if you're leveraging the cleanup step, the minute you hit the next cleanup step, it just ceases to be a thing. So it's a little, it's still a great card. It's split second, come on. But I do, you're 100% correct there, B. Yep. Keep going, brother. Yes, please.
But this is why, so my deck design isn't designed. There's a lot of people I see out there that are really pushing to go to that end step, and like that's when they want to do their thing. And I think most people, once they realize that that's how it actually works, I think a lot of people are going to understand like, oh, I can't do that. But like Confessor is a card that's going to let you do that. Every time you discard a card, you gain a life. And it's not just you, it's whenever a player discards a card, you gain a life. So Confessor is, I have it in combo because it's something that keeps you alive. I can now draw my whole deck and stay even life. I can literally just draw in my main phase. If I go through a combo, I can literally just draw my whole deck and stay at the same life total. Every time I draw a card and discard a card, I'm now just gaining that life back, and you can just keep doing that. Which is why I have things like Imp, Putrid Imp. So Putrid Imp with Planar Void equals I discard any card, it gets exiled, I draw a card. And if you have Confessor in play, every time you do that, now you just sculpt the perfect hand while also gaining that 1 life back, so you're not killing yourself, and you can go through your deck to get whatever you want. I
gotta throw this in there, bro, and you're gonna get to this when we get to Tutors. But the fact that these are all flipping 1 mana creatures, and you've been talking about
everything's 1 mana. They're all coming down turn 1.
Not to mention that these are cheap as fuck. If you're flickering your Ranger Captain in this loop, all of these creatures are coming off your board. I mean, you're getting shot right to hand, of course, except of Planar Void's enchantment. But I do love this. This is phenomenal. Please continue, brother. This is very perplexing. I love this. Yes, please.
Not only do you have Putrid Imp, but you also have the other, what's the 1-drop? So Tireless Tribe, another white 1-drop, which you can sack to Flare of Fortitude when you need to. You can go into your main phase, sack a Flare of Fortitude. Now my life total can't change. Now I can also do these loops and my life total can't change. And I can also gain life during that. So instead of like netting even, if I'm going through that, now I'm just gaining 1 life extra, and I can gain like 40 life while drawing 40 cards. And not, oh, well, I guess if your life total can't change, I can't gain life either. So never mind. That
Pish posh. You can't die.
You can't die. Yeah, you're not going to die from it.
All right.
You can't die. But the reason things like Calling the Weak, we got Flare, we have Flare of Malice. These are all things that say sacrifice a creature. Yes. And because they're free, it's in here because if I do go to my end step and I don't draw the cards I need to, and I start saying, oh shit, like I need to stop this. Once I hit one of these, I can instantly just sack my commander and stop the loop. And nobody can interact with it. I'm not casting it. I'm saying, nope, I just sack it to cast it. And they can interact with that. They can't stop me from sacking my commander. It's sacked. They can counter the spell. I don't care. I just need to get rid of my commander and live to see another day and get it back around to me after I drew 10, 12, maybe 14, 20 cards and say, no, I'm going to stop here. I got some good stuff. I can't win right now, but drawing 20 cards saying pass and people going shit. We can't let him have his next turn.
Right, 100%.
Is really important. So I would suggest anybody that's playing this deck, you got to run these cards because they sack your commander and stop
100%.
those. Containment Construct, brilliant card for this deck. This is when you get in these discard loops and you're exiling. So if you don't have, Planar Void out and you get your Containment Construct, as you do these discard loops, guess what? Every card you discard, you can cast until end of turn. So if you're in your main phase going through these discard loops, drawing 20 cards, you can sit there and go, oh, okay. And what's nice is these discard effects from the imp or the tracker, they're instant speed. So you can just be like, I feel comfortable right now. I'm going to cast a couple rocks. Let me discard a couple more cards, exile them. Oh, I'll cast that Mox Diamond from exile. Oh, I'll exile some more cards that get exile. Okay, and then you can just keep going through these loops. And if nobody has interaction, and we're in white, we can say people can't interact with us. So
that is true.
If you're in one of these and you have it set up, one silence and you start going through these loops, there's nothing anybody can do. It's pretty awesome.
And notably, if I can ask a question, the containment construct, because it says whenever you discard a card, you may exile that card from your graveyard. If you do, you may play that card this turn. It hits your graveyard, then get exiled. So then that also triggers your commander, correct?
To draw another. Yep. So now you're drawing cards off the containment. So there's a lot of cards in here that are gonna just let you go through a discard draw loop. So you can sit here and just discard shit, and it's 2 mana. Everything's 1 and 2 mana. This whole deck is 1 and 2 mana. It's so cheap. You don't need a lot of mana to do these things. You can get this out turn 1 off of an ancient tomb, go into turn 2 with a rock and a land, and all of a sudden you have your commander out, and you can start putting discard stuff. You can have a Fairy Macabre in your hand, and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I'll freely discard this. It gets exiled. I'll draw another card. Oh, let's see what I got. Oh, okay. Now I can do this. And you can just keep feeding yourself as you hurt yourself. So I think somebody said it in the chat. They're like, win by 1,000 cuts, but also before death by 1,000 cuts. That's a very good call out of what this deck is.
100%.
Yeah. And then we have things like Currency Converter. It's a 1 mana artifact. You can get it off of an Urza Saga. Whenever you discard a card, you may exile that card from your graveyard. Guess what? I don't want to discard. I don't want to exile my Abdel Adrian. I would like to keep that right where it is. So I'm not going to draw for this one. I'm just going to keep it there. But guess what? I'm going to discard something else, and I'm going to lose life and draw a card. And then, say I run out of abilities to discard cards. I use 2 mana. I'll draw another card. I'll discard this card. Then I'll exile that card. I'll draw another card. So now I'm hitting 2 cards off of this. 2 cards off of a 2 mana. I'll take that in white-black any day. That's why I'm saying Ristic Study, it's not even cool anymore, man. This is the deck. This is it.
All I hear is say, I do this, I draw cards, I do this, draw cards. Literally, my biggest problem is that I only have 40 life. That is my biggest problem with this deck.
Yes.
Literally, if y'all gave us 100 life, we would win the game on turn fucking 1. That's all I'm saying, bro.
Yeah, you just keep hurting yourself. And things like, all right, Deadly Relic is another one. If your commander's in play and you're going through a discard loop and you want to stop, I've Deadly Relic my own commander because I'm like, well, I don't want to die, and I never hit anything that's gonna gain me my life back, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit my commander with Deadly Relic, while you can stop to finish your combo, so you don't kill yourself before you combo off.
So one thing I wanted to say back to Currency Converter, I wanted to just say how I love this. Is just random, uncommon from New Capenna. And I think this is this last ability, if I'm not mistaken. It's pretty cool. You put a card exile with Currency Converter into your graveyard. If it's a land card, create a treasure token. There's so much value in just a 1 mana card that notably you just put on your battlefield from an Urza Saga. It's just such a simple tech. So that, in addition to what you just said with the Deadly Relic tech, everything, I see exactly what you're saying with the layering on top. But please don't let me stop your flow, brother. Keep going, brother.
And on top of that, say you do discard Abdel Adrian to it, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna exile it, because guess what? Now I'm just gonna tap Currency Converter and get a 2/2 black rogue to block, so I stop getting hit by these dudes that don't want me to live because everybody keeps attacking you. So now you get Abdel back in your graveyard, and now you can reanimate it. So you're getting a free 2/2, discarding, drawing a card. There's so many things that are happening. That's why I said it's so many triggers that you have to track. So many things you have to think about. But like when you start exiling lands, you're like, oh shoot, I'm one land away. Like, oh, I have a currency converter. Oh, let me put that land back in my graveyard and I'll get a treasure for free because you're just tapping it. And now I'm able to use that treasure. Like currency converter just turned into a mana rock. So it's pretty cool. That card is really nuts for 1 mana in this deck.
100%. And I'm sure they weren't thinking about this shit. They're just like, this is like draw a discard, bring it back from exile. This is cute, whatever not. And they literally, a few years later, they just said like, yeah, I think we fucked up, guys. We fucked up.
On top of that, the reason I love this deck, and you and I love having this conversation, the One Ring exists in this format. The One Ring is in every cEDH deck you will play against. I don't know. Maybe there's one out there that might take it out and might not play it. I was tempted not to play the One Ring in this deck, honestly. But then I was like, you can't not. Like, I do draw a lot, but if somebody... I've been in games where a Drannith hit the board and all of a sudden my commander is not usable. And you're going to need something like a One Ring or something to like keep that card draw going because that's what you need. But Ellis Ill-Core Sadistic Pilgrim. This is the one I'm on. A lot of people I see not playing this, and I will say to a T, Orcish Bowmaster exists. You're playing the 2-drop that's one colorless, one black. I can't think of it. There's like 2 of them that do the exact same thing, but it's dying to Orcish Bowmaster every time. This is at least a 2/2. Plus it has Death Touch. People. I don't want people attacking me. When I put a Death Touch out here, now people are like, shoot, I really want to hit you, but I'm going to go hit the other Adnos player at the table because I don't want to lose my creature. So I'm like, oh, cool. So leave me alone. I just leave it up as a blocker. And then I'm also just gaining life as I keep casting other creatures. There's 27 creatures in this deck, a lot of 1-drops. You can gain 2 life real quick. On top of when you're looping, not only are you gaining 1 life every time you do this, but guess what, One Ring player? You're losing 1 life. So I just got around your One Ring protection, and you're dead. If I loop Abdel, Adrian, you're dead. I drained you for 1. You keep draining for 1 every time. It just keeps coming back in and keeps dying. So that card's powerhouse.
No, 100%. Like, you're 100% right. We talk about this all the time. Like, I will say that I've noticed that people have been, I've heard some people say use the term enlightened, where it went from like 100% of decks running it to more like 95. And nowadays, I think maybe about 70 to 80% of cEDH decks are just running the One Ring because it's still just objectively a great card draw engine. If you're not a super turbo slanted deck, or if your commander has draw, whatever the fuck not, whatever not reason. Like I know some TNK pilots don't run it either. Like, and that's no knock to them, but I do think whether you think everyone runs it or not, being able to win through the One Ring protection, that random player who just says I'm going to cast the One Ring on turn 4 just because I want to like get the protection to not die or whatever people comes to mind, still being able to win through it is phenomenal. So I love your emphasis on being able to still win through the One Ring. It's huge, and it's a lot more important. It's a lot more important that people give credit to it to be. So I love.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than killing everybody at the table and then being like, "All right, One Ring player, I pass to you. Let's see what happens."
And they draw 2 extra cards.
Yeah, and you're just like, "Ah, man." But also, I just have to say, the artwork on this card is glorious. The one I pulled this one. I bought the super pack, those really expensive like collector's edition packs for this set, and was super disappointed. But I did pull this, and I loved this artwork, and I was like, I wish I could just put this in a deck. Yeah. And I finally was like I was building this, and I was like, wait a second, doesn't that thing do it? And then I like went through all my cards, and I was like, what was that name? And I just was looking for this picture because I could just picture. I was like, what is this card? And I finally found it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is going straight in this deck. And it's not dying to Orcish Bowmaster, so like that's huge. Like, you gotta get 2 things, but there is Orcish Bowmaster is this deck's bane of existence. Like,
yeah, I mean,
it will die to Orcish Bowmaster if I'm doing the drawing. Like, you have to kill your commander at that point to make sure that the Orcish doesn't just kill this guy right here.
100%. Funny thing, I actually had a similar experience where I pulled the last pre-release night I went to was Dominaria United, this one right here, and I pulled the foil version of this exact art. So when you read this, I'm like, oh, I did
That's
it
what's
too.
in mine. Yeah, the foil version is just so beautiful.
I literally was like fiending. I was actually gonna make this a commander back in the day where I was still like kind of like I was still figuring out my identity when it came to like an EDH cEDH player. And I swear to gosh, I was like, bro, I want to find somewhere to put it because it's such a sick looking card. So I'm with you 100% on the aesthetics. This card is beautiful. If y'all haven't seen the fold out version, that's freaking beautiful. But continue. I digress. Go ahead, B.
Yeah. So Emergent Zone is here. It's a combo piece in the realm of you go to your end step, you go to the do like draw your whole deck thing. You can now just flash things in. I'm really tempted to cut it. I really, there's a lot of colors that are needed in this deck, and the other colorless mana I think is just better. And a lot of times you're like tapping out. I'm noticing just from playing, like a lot of times I only have like 2 or 3 mana left, but like if you do crack it, you are able to just keep playing mana rocks and get there. So it is in there. I have yet to have it be drawn or be used yet, so I can't say. I'm gonna keep it in until I see it do its thing, and if it does its thing right, then I'm not gonna worry about it. But it is one of those cards where I'm like, sometimes you don't have to win. I'm not in blue. I don't have flash a lot. Like there's not a ton of flash, but we'll get to that. I mean, let's just scroll right down. Let's just get into it right now.
Yeah,
I did add Shimmer Mirror. I did add Shimmer Mirror into this deck because you are able to go to your end step, and if you have some mana, you can flash in a Shimmer Mirror once you can produce mana at that point. Right. And then once you have Shimmer Mirror, you keep drawing, and you can just keep flashing in all your rocks. And I play a ton of rocks, and there's I think 19 or 17 or 18 artifacts in this. A lot of them are rocks. And once you get those rocks down, then you can just finish your combo, at instant speed. Like Necro, which is in here, Necromancy, great card. It's instant speed that you can loop your either Abdel. You also have Feldar Guardian. You have the Leonin Relic-Warder, which also can do it. So you have a lot. You have 3 creatures. So if somebody exiles or kills or whatever, I mean, if they kill it, thank you. You just did my job for me. Because now I can just, get it back in and start the loop. But you got a lot. There's enough creatures. You got 3 that you can get that loop off of on. And I also added Scout's Warning. I think it's an underrated card.
I have one thing, because you're hitting the exact questions I wanted. I want to talk about Scout's Warning, but before we talk about Scout's Warning, I actually had a question about the Shimmer Mirror inclusion, not for the questioning against it, but I want to ask how you felt about Shimmer Mirror versus Liberator Urza's Battlethopter in the 99 to support that flash speed. Notably, Shimmer Mirror is like, as you know, flash. You may cast artifact spells as though they had flash, and it's a 2/2 for 3 mana. And if you all are not, if the audience is not familiar, we had Liberator Liberator Urza's Battlethopter. It is 3 mana as well. It's a legendary artifact creature with flash and flying, so we do gain the ability to block flying creatures. And instead of it being a 2/2, it's a 1/2. But in addition to being able to cast colorless spells and artifact spells, you also do get the thing where you get, whenever you cast a spell, if the amount of mana spent to cast a spell is greater than Liberator Urza's Battlethopter's power, which starts off at 1, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on Liberator. So it's say for example, you have this on board, and then you eventually cast your 2 mana containment construct. It makes it a 2/3, and so on and so forth, however you like to build it. So it starts off a little bit smaller on the power side, but I don't think you ever planned on swinging it. It is just
we're making that switch right now.
Oh, okay, cool. I just wanted to ask about it because it was just like, I was like, oh shit, like maybe there was a line or some tech I didn't think about. But I do love the artifact flash speed enabler. I forgot who put me onto this for the Brea community. If you all aren't familiar, Brea is as you're making this switch over here, Brea is another really cool commander that's 4-color Brea Ethereum Shaper, where because you're able to loop LED and for Bomberman, you can also, add instant speed. If Bomberman's on board, you flash your artifact enabler, artifact speed enabler, instant speed enabler, and you do the loop with LED, and then you can infinitely cast Brea from the command zone because it's an artifact. So shout out to the Brea community for teaching me that tech. But for this list, I do think that flash speed enabler is phenomenal because you have that walking Ballista outlet with the infinite mana. So but
just made the switch. I love it.
Cool. So we're going to refresh this. And once again, my brother, you are pulling the words out of my head. We are locked in, like, bruh. The other question I wanted to, you hit the card because I wanted to say that, what was the card's name again? Oh, there we go. Scouts Warning.
Scouts Warning, yeah.
You had started talking about Scouts Warning. I saw it. I was like, this brother is in like insane. This tech is so fire. Like literally, if you make instant speed, if you're in the instant speed moment, you make mana instant speed, you're able to then cast this and then push your Walking Ballista out or whatever the heck you want to push out. Please talk to us about Scouts Warning. You said it was slept on. Like, please go ahead, brother.
Yeah, so Scouts Warning, I think, is a really great card in this. You go to end step, even if you just need to get one card out of your hand, you discard down to 7 and you're going through that loop and you're like, okay, like now say you have a Walking Ballista in your hand and you just need to stop your loop. You can Scouts Warning at the end of your end step to not, keep discarding and just go Scouts Warning, draw a card, but then you're going to cast that Walking Ballista for free and just get it out of your hand to go down to 7 and you don't have to keep going through those loops. But then you can also flash in things like, say you have a Heliod in play, and you have the artifact that you can exile. Walking Ballista to give a 1/1 counter to a creature. Why can't I think of the name of it?
Agatha's Soul Cauldron?
Agatha's Soul Cauldron, yeah, at the top.
Yes.
All right, so say you already have Agatha's Soul Cauldron and you're going to your end step. Let me tell you a little something about your commander here, KETRAMOSE. It already has lifelink. You don't have to use the 2 extra mana off of Heliod.
Oh,
if you put Walking Ballista onto your commander, you already have the lifelink. So you really only need 0 mana to flash in Walking Ballista at the end step if you already have Heliod in. And all of a sudden, with the trigger, because you can respond, so say Planar Void is in play, you can respond to those triggers. That's what's so great about this deck. So yes, I'm exiling everybody else's stuff, but a lot of my stuff like Necromancy, Planar Void, you can respond to the trigger of exile. So say I do have Planar Void in play. I cast the Scouts Warning, flash in, I draw a card, flash in Walking Ballista, it dies instantly, hits the graveyard, I respond to it, I hold priority, Agatha's Soul Cauldron it onto my commander, it gets a 1/1 counter, and Machine Gun Kelly everybody at the table. and they're just like, what the fuck just happened? Like, what? Like, honestly, yeah, surprise.
Honestly, you just blew my mind with that. Yeah, my commander already has life. I'm like, what the fuck? He's right.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to pay the 2 mana for the Walking Ballista Heliod Sunground. Like, if just to throw this in there, if you all are not familiar, Heliod Suncrown plus Walking Ballista is a 2-card combo. You cast Heliod, you pay and then you cast Walking Ballista where X equals 1, or no, X equals 2. So that's 4 mana. So you spend 3 plus 4 is 7, and then 2 more to make it 9 to give the Walking Ballista lifelink. However, as B-Rad has so greatly already told us, if he leverages something like an Agatha's Soul Cauldron to get, if he discards or for whatever reason puts that Walking Ballista into the graveyard, he can exile it with the Agatha's Soul Cauldron, not only draw a card, but also give his commander the Walking Ballista ability to be able to just go bop, 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 I'm going to end the game. And the +1/+1 counter comes for the Agatha's Soul Cauldron to start the loop. Oh my gosh. You've won me at that point. That's phenomenal. I love that tech. That is so cool, bro. Please continue.
Now that we're on Heliod, let me just tell you all the things Heliod does in the deck. Because if it only did one thing, I wouldn't be playing it. So Heliod mixed with your commander, you're already being able to now put 1/1 counters on your commander as you're gaining life. Once your commander's turned on, you're gaining 4 life just attacking with it. I don't care if they block, whatever. You're still putting 1/1 counters on it. On top of that, you have things like Confessor, where whenever a player discards a card from their hand, you gain a life. So let's just talk about Confessor for a second. How many people are playing freaking Wheels right now? If I turn one Confessor and somebody goes, I'll wheel, everybody discard their hand, draw 7. Okay, first off, I just gained, let's just say everybody has 7 cards just to make it easy. I just gained 21 life right off the rip in the beginning of the game. So thank you, because I'm going to be paying a ton of life. Now I got 21 extra life.
I'm sorry for cutting you off. I got to throw this in there. No, and notably, this is not like an OBM where people say, oh, I don't want to cast my will into the OBM. It's like, all right, he gains 21 life in a combo central format. No one's going to care that you gain 21 life. They will, but it's like, I can see a player still casting casting the will into this. This is not the end of the world. But please continue. I hear you. Please continue, brother.
Yeah, and then on top of this, so say I start gaining these 1 lives for discarding cards.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize for cutting you off. I have to give a huge shout out very quickly to Noble. It's not 21, it's 28 because it says a player, so it counts yourself as well. So you go up to 68 life.
Oh yeah, yourself. Yeah.
No, that's Noble. Shout out to Noble in the chat. Yeah.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, while I'm discarding cards, I'm gaining life. And then if you start discarding cards, I'm gaining life. Like, it's such a slept on card that I never knew existed until I looked up. I literally looked into when this card leaked, I looked into every card that had discard in it and was just like, what? Like, there's just hundreds of cards, and I'm just like, what card fits with my deck?
I love that, brother. Sheesh, damn.
So that card is great. I love it. On top of that, we have things like we already kind of touched base on Shieldred. Shieldred is we're doing the discard loop and you're gaining the extra life, and then on top of it, you're hurting everybody else at the table. Walking Ballista has two ways. You really have, if you just have Heliod and Walking Ballista, you can just do the combo there. And then if you want to go ahead and use your commander and Agatha Soul Cauldron as well. So like if you have them both on the table, you can just cast Walking Ballista for 4 and then give Walking Ballista lifelink for another 2, and then you can machine gun the whole table. So like that gets around like if you don't have your commander in play. But there's other things that that it has other ways to go, which is why I wanted to kind of talk about Orcish Bowmaster. So Orcish Bowmaster is another game ender. If you have Abdel, you can keep flickering Orcish Bowmaster with it to ping the whole table, so you have another outlet to take out the table. And I mean that's Putrid Imp with the Tireless Tracker or your discard outlets. So that's pretty much all the ways you can kind of win with this deck. There's just so many things that interlock, and not to mention Dance of the Dead and all these cards just have value outside. If somebody has a Displacer Kitten that dies, and I'm like, yeah, I'll take a Displacer Kitten, cast a card, flicker my stuff, cast a card, flicker my stuff, then I keep drawing and flickering. There's just a lot you can do with like Animate Dead early game if you don't have the combo. Plus, we have ways of flickering Animate Dead to like get it off whatever creature I got earlier, and now I can just reanimate my Abdel or whatever I want to throw into my graveyard with one of my tutors.
100%.
And then you can just go for it. So there's just a lot of lines you can go for.
Before we move to the next section, I just gotta take a second to say that to hit on, I see Mike brought this up earlier. He said the power creep is real for these new commanders, and I thought Hashaton was crazy. I was like, y'all, this is crazy. Split second, the Thassa's lever, all these the reverse Thassa's line, the instant speed, all that shit is cute, it's cool. I fuck with it. I had no idea that this list had this type of potential, and I don't want to use the word terrified. I am in love with this list. Like, bro, I love you. You touch my love language when it comes to the layered lines. Like, you talking about this line does this, but then it also synergizes this, but then it also does this. Like, man, I love that over 25% of your 99 is literally just generically strong cards that help get you to the win, but also help facilitate the win and help the win keep going even further. Whether it's leveraging removal spells to kill your commander when you're ready to not die, or whatever line, whether it be a discard outlet, to all the things about this, like, it's phenomenal. I kid you not. This list is freaking awesome. So before we move into the next section, I did have a couple questions for you. Notably, I wanted to ask you about, I noticed that we are running Angel's Grace. Also, I noticed that we are running Children of Corliss, which these are both really strong cards to make sure your life total either doesn't go below 0 or you can bolster it back up after going really deep. But most of the time I see these cards with Ad Nauseam. And so I want to ask, was Ad Nauseam something that's currently be considered? Is it something that's like, nah, T, we tried it, it didn't work? Can you just talk to me about the Ad Nauseam inclusion for this list?
Yeah, this deck would be a good, like, if you look at if you just kind of scroll down, just looking at the mana for this, I mean, everything's 1 or 2. Like, Ad Naus would work probably fine in this deck. I'm already hurting a lot. Like, I hurt myself a lot. So for me, like, and it's really fun to get into a game and immediately tell people I'm not on Necropotence and I'm not on Ad Nauseam.
Yeah.
Hey, sometimes it might work. Sometimes people are gonna go, your commander is a Necropotence, and I'm gonna shut up, leave me alone.
Shut up. What the fuck you talking to, dude?
But yeah, I as you can see, if you go to my sideboard, you'll see there's 27 cards in my sideboard. Ad nauseum's right at the top there. This list has changed so many times. So many times. It went from a total flicker package to just so many different things, to like Mikaeus recursion packages and things like that with Gravecrawler, and the ability to just keep doing that where you can keep flickering things and having things die for triggers. But I ended up it just didn't feel right to me, because you're trying to do so many other things and you keep getting cards in your hand and they're so cheap that you just keep casting them and doing things that it just didn't feel like it was the right thing to be doing. It might be right for some people, but I just couldn't get behind it. And it might make its way back in eventually, but like it's the list is pretty tight as it is right now. Like I'm finding it's hard for me to pick things, because you have so many ways to just draw anyway. Like, dude, I can just pay 1 life instead of hitting a 5-drop and being like, shit, I take 5. Let's just draw my deck instead, 1 by 1, and then stop when I want to. So I just didn't see a place for it.
Yeah, no, I'm not mad at you actually with that. And because whenever we play, one of my first things, the minute like the first combat goes in, like, I don't know, I know it doesn't use this stack, but the minute that first attack phase goes on the second, someone turns sideways to TTC, if I'm not running it, I'm going to say respectfully, while attackers are being declared, I don't run Adnaz, Necro, Dom, Necropotence, or Ballista Citadel. I don't mind taking the 2 damage from your Ragavan or from your 1 damage from your Esper, but you're better off hitting the player who is actively using their life total. Now, of course, that's changed recently with the Hashaton, and I also have a Braille list that leverages Necropotence, and that it's neither here nor there. But I will say, I love your reasoning for the Necropotence and the ad nauseum exclusion that a lot of people in the cEDH community don't talk about, which is play style and player preference. A lot of times we just hear, this is the good card, you have to run the good card, and then people are losing with the good cards and they're wondering, what am I doing wrong? Well, you're building your list for other people, you're not building it for yourself. At what point are you going to be like B-Rad and say, like, I know it's good, but it just doesn't fit my play style. The list is already bleeding me out with all of the life loss. I have to actually stick in extra life gain to make it work. And for me and my play style, it may work for you, it may work for y'all, but for me, I find that I get the job done without it. You know what I'm saying? That's where I can respect you as a brewer and a pilot, because you realize it's not a bad card. B never said it was a bad card. But for me, I found that these X cards over Ad Nauseam, these X cards over Necropotence are more viable, and still having the humility and openness to say it may come back in the list later. So no knock to you at all for that. It was definitely just something I was curious about, because I saw that synergy where people naturally run those cards with Ad Nauseam, and I wanted to hear your mind. So please, thank you for sharing that. And so before we get into the next category, I want to take some time to give some flowers to the chat. We got Noble saying, nobly a sleepless night for Brad over this deck. Couldn't stop mentioning it when we would chat. That is so real. I could tell he's been really like living and breathing this list. Fun fact, if y'all didn't know, me and Brad were messaging about a week, literally maybe about a week ago. And he was, thank you again, Brad. He was giving me flowers for the Hashaton video. It did very well. It's the #1 video for the channel. And I just immediately, he was telling me about the KETRAMOSE, how he's really fucking with it. If you haven't already seen it, I will tag it up here. Check out his video with Cam with Play to Win, where he takes an amazing win. I'm gonna spoil it because it's a fucking amazing win with this KETRAMOSE deck. But immediately it popped in my head, and I challenged him and said, hey bro, are you down for a challenge? He was like, yeah, what's up? And I was just like, would you be down to like come on the channel literally next week? So I need y'all to understand, this brother had 1 week of preparation for a new commander, and he has already, even before we get to the Tutors card draw interaction packages, shown the level of deep thinking that he is putting for this list. And I just have to give you your flowers here. So when Noble says many sleepless nights, like I believe it, brother. I believe it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, when my brain gets turned on to something, there's nights where I'd be up to like 3 in the morning, be like, oh shit, I gotta work. Yeah, I'd just be like looking at cards, just scrolling through the entire Magic database. Just like once I just start, like, especially when this first leaked, like there's nothing else to. I think I was the first person on Reddit to like post a deck like this, like deck list, to be like, hey, like check this out, like immediately when it came out. And wow. There's one thing I wanted to bring back that I totally forgot to mention. Leonin Relic-Warder. This card is also great because if I can't, I love. I'm not gonna sit there and sit on it. Like this card is great to just take out a Rhystic Study, which forces somebody to kill it, and then they put it in my graveyard for me because they want their Rhystic Study. They want their. I was playing Hashaton, and I ate somebody's LED with it, like because they played LED, and I was like, oh sweet. So my like turn 2, they had a turn 1 LED. I was like turn 2 Relic and Warder, and then I ate their LED, and they were like, you know, it just kind of can shut down things like that because, you know, I'm sure he was sitting on something crazy waiting to discard it and copy like some crazy creature. But now I'm just like, all right, here it is. I'm gonna keep swinging it at you until you kill it because I want it in the graveyard at this point. I have my other combo piece. You know, go ahead and kill it to get your card back. So, you know, that card is super good in this deck because, once again, I love cards that don't just do one thing. It has to have a separate purpose, or I can't mess with it. Like it has to be doing something else. And this card is great for early turn. Get rid of a fish. Get rid of the Rhystic. Get rid of, you know, any kind of like a One Ring. You have a One Ring? That's cool. Like let me eat that real quick. You're gonna want to kill my Relic-Warder, but you got to know once you do, I might have win in hand. Like I might just win the game because you did it. And I'm getting around your One Ring once it comes back because you don't cast it, so it doesn't matter. But you know, so I just wanted to touch point on that. That's one of my favorite things about that card.
No, that honestly hits the last thing that was put in the chat, which was also from Noble saying layers are one of the best ways to win. I've started to notice high synergy can take cEDH wins and are tough to totally remove. Redundancy is king. I love that statement he makes. A lot of times redundancy is king. A lot of times in cEDH, we missed the mark because we are in a single format, and we need to understand having those redundancies of like certain discard outlets, or whether it be exile effects for this list is king. Like you having the kind of possibly passively playing around with the rule of 3, having Leonin, both Abdel, and as well Felidar Guardian, 3 different effects that can start a loop with your Reanimator enchantment. I just think that is the coolest thing in the world. So with that being said, I want to say thank you to the chat for interacting. We gonna keep buzzing in there, keep buzzing. Also, shout out to Icy Mike bringing up the exiling flickers triggers the Ketra 2 100%. But to B-Rad, bro, we've talked about win cons, we've talked about all these layers of synergy, but let's talk about now our tutor package and how we get to these amazing win cons, brother. Yeah,
we're in black. We're playing all the tutors. You got Beseech the Mirror. That's gonna get you. Honestly, it's really funny. A lot of times I'll end up just getting Planar Void. I will Beseech the Mirror, sack something, grab Planar Void, and just go ham. I guess we'll get to Planar. Well, we're on Planar Void. I gotta say something.
Yes.
Planar Void, I didn't break down enough, I think. I guess I really have to explain this to you because this is gonna get T. I know you're about to giggle and get really excited right now. Planar Void on my turn. If you counter my spell while KETRAMOSE is in play, not only do I draw off your counter hitting the graveyard, I draw a second card because my card hits the graveyard. So any card you interact with me on my turn, you're drawing me 2 cards. It's Rhystic Study on crack. I'm telling you, it's going ham. It's putting in so much work. You're drawing so much cards if people interact with you on their turn. Or maybe they forget to crack a fetch land and they want to interact with you, and all of a sudden like, oh, I crack a fetch, and you're like, okay, and it gets exiled. I draw a card, and they're like, oh no, like crap. Thanks for the free card. So a lot of times I am searching for Planar Void. Getting that card down turn 1 is huge. Enlightened Tutor grabs it. Demonic Tutor grabs it. I can Entomb for any of my win cons. You can put Walking Ballista in the graveyard. You can put any Felidar Guardian. Almost always you're going for Abdel because that's your best one because it can also give you the infinite mana. Entomb gets you a ton of stuff. Imperial Seal. What's great about Imperial Seal? So say you do have Imperial Seal with Planar Void. I'm going to keep talking about Planar Void because the card is so important to the deck. If you Imp Seal, your Imp Seal searches for the card, then Imp Seal hits the graveyard. I just drew the card that Imp Seal put on top of my library. So I lose 3 and I get the card in my hand. Vampiric Tutor, same thing. I Vampiric Tutor, put the card on top. Vampiric Tutor hits the graveyard, then it gets exiled. And guess what? Now I'm drawing the card I just searched for. All these tutors turn into instant draw tutors. They're all demonic tutors. in this
Get
list.
the fuck out of here.
They're all demonic tutors for 1 mana.
Wow, that's hilarious. Literally the epitome of like Planivore plus your 1 mana top deck tutors, whether it be Enlightened, Imperial, or Vampiric, turns all of them into 2 mana demonic.
Not to mention, you're already playing a bunch of graveyard removal. I'll use my own Agatha's Soulcaller if I have to just exile that Vamp tutor that just hit. And now all of a sudden I top deck the card I just put on top.
Yeah.
You know, you have Fairy Macabre, you can do the same thing. Ghost Vacuum. If you go into my graveyard removal, there's tons of things that I can just do myself. Hey, Relic Progenitors, target player exiles a card from his or her graveyard, and target myself. Or I can target you and I still draw a card. But all these things just draw me those cards instantaneously. They're all 1 mana. They're coming down turn 1. They're coming down turn 1. Like I'm waiting to get some kind of turn 1 graveyard interaction on my opening hand, and there's enough of it that you can, you know. And Wishclaw, you know, these cards are all really good. I would say Tainted Pact is amazing because Tainted Pact is going to exile you're going to exile 7 cards because I want to turn on my commander either way. I'll just keep going until I turn on my commander. Like, hey, guess what? Tainted Pact turn 1, go get the card I want, and my next turn, my commander is going to be already blocking for me going into turn 2 as it comes around back to my turn 3. So, like, Tainted Pact's just great. It's just all this synergies that you would never think about. I don't get to draw off Tainted Pact because it's exiling off my library, but the fact is, I'm turning on my commander, and sometimes I'm just grabbing a mana rock, and I'm like, hey, I'll Tainted Pact for this mana rock, exile 6 cards, now I have 7 cards exiled, cool, my commander's on. Now I start cracking people for 4, gaining 4 life.
Wow. Man,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I just want to throw this in. Like, I don't feel excited. I feel enlightened right now. Like literally, like I feel like that every time you state another synergistic line, this is the epitome of like, I tell people all the time, be cautious of how much synergy you put in your 99, but this is the deck that honestly just you get more favor for the more synergy you put in, because the synergy cards are just, because the command zone is card draw, you get brownie points for putting life gain in the deck. You get brownie points for running generically good cards like Tainted Pact. And even within the realm of Tainted Pact, another question I wanted to actually ask you is how you felt about the inclusion of Praetor's Grasp. I know we're going to talk about a couple more tutors, but while we're in this conversation, Tainted Pact plus Praetor's Grasp, notably being you being able to grab someone's Stasis Oracle, and then you having the Tainted Pact. Now you can do the for 3 black and 2 colorless and plus 2 blue, you're able to do the full combo at that. Is that something that the list could maybe want to do, or is that just too far out there?
It had it. That was how I started. That was like probably one of the first win cons I put in the deck, because I was like, oh, I can just, you know, say I can't lose my life total or whatever, and back a creature, and now my life total can't change, and then I can just draw my deck through these loops, and then I just Praetor's Grasp for Thassa's, and then I just win. For me, as I got deeper and deeper into the deck, things that I just kept coming back to was like, I didn't want to bank on a thing where you target the person. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I had it happen to me where I had a copy effect in my hand, and I was like, red player. Oh, you're a red player, like, and your deck totally screams that you're on Dualcaster Mage. Praetor's Grasp. Can I grab your Dualcaster Mage? And they're like, oh, I'm not on it. And then the player after that person, they searched for their Dualcaster Mage, and they won on a Dualcaster Mage line. Literally right after me. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And the guy was like, yeah, even if you did target me, it was in my hand. Or no, he did search for it. He's like, you would have screwed me, because I was literally, that was like my only way to win in this moment was to go for that. And I was like, that sucks. So I had that happen to me like one time, and that always stuck with me. So to like sit there and like target a Thassa, to try to grab a Thassa and really put like 3 mana into that, and then have it crumble, is just can completely devastate that turn. And then cEDH, you don't always get that turn to come back around you. Like, sure, you could grab like a Pact of Negation or something just to like, or a Force of Negation or something just to, you know, counter the next person that tries to win in that moment. But I just couldn't keep it in. As much as I do have the way to just mill myself pretty easily.
Yeah, I definitely respect where you're coming from. I will offer the lovingly pushback of like, sometimes that does happen. I think as you continue to like just naturally, just as you continue to push yourself and like get to know different decks and to see different things, you'll be able to better read decks. But I will say, in addition, there is times where I sit there with my Predator's Grasp in hand. I'm like, which of these two blue players are more likely to run Breach or more likely to run like Thassa's? Because there are maybe not Dimir plus, but there are some there's some blue plus decks that are not in Dimir that don't run Thassa's to help them finish the game out, whether it be from Breach or like certain Jeskai lists or whatever not. So being in those situations where you have to kind of gamble on which list has the cards you need, and also thinking about who would already have in hand, can be a really, really huge thing. So I will say I hate that you had that experience, but it was a great learning experience. And honestly, it may be at the end of the day, it may be more in line with the true player B-Rad is meant to be. So full respect there. I'm not gonna pull teeth on Praetor's Grasp. I'm gonna be honest. Like,
no, for sure. It's a great card. I love the card. That's a great card. But in a deck like this where you already can draw so many of your own win cons, like, do I really need to risk going after somebody else's? Like, I have so many ways to win around a one ring that it's like, do I need to be taking any sort of risk when I know I can just go for it, like with my own deck? That's kind of what I came back to. And but I mean, it's a great card. It's in my considering or in my sideboard somewhere, I'm sure. It is in my considering. Like I said, there's 35 cards in my considering, which means they were all in this deck at one point, in the past 2 weeks or whenever this leaked. Maybe 3 weeks at this point.
No, respect. I definitely hear that. Yeah, like I said, no shade to that. This was very interested, but please continue on. We have a couple more tunes that we want to touch on. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah. So Ranger Captain is amazing in this deck. There's you can flicker it. There's a lot of like I said, there's so many 1-drops. Tireless Tribe, guess what? 1-drop. Putrid Imp, guess what? 1-drop. Those are huge for my deck. And to hit that card and be able to go get one of those is huge. Do I know I'm going to go into a discard loop at the end of my turn? Let me go grab Confessor, put it into play real quick. So now I'm just gaining 1 life and I'm negating that. Your 1-drops are just beautiful to be grabbing with that Ranger Captain as a tutor. So it is super powerful. And Esper, if it's early game and I need card draw, Esper. But honestly, in this deck, if my commander's in play, I'm probably not going for Esper. There's
That's crazy, but I feel you, bro.
I need to live. So
I ain't mad at you, brother. I am not mad.
I can just search for a combo piece instead of draw because you're drawing so much on your own. So Ranger Captain's great, which brings me to Urza Saga. Urza Saga is so good in this deck. Once again, my combos are all 1-drops. I can go grab the Altar of the Brood, put it into play. Nobody can interact with it. And all of a sudden, everybody has to deal with an Altar of the Brood into play. And if I have anything that's exiling graveyards, guess what? I'm drawing 3 cards every time something comes into play. Or if I get into my Flicker combo, out of nowhere, all of a sudden, I'm milling the whole table. And they're just sitting there going, oh, wait, how did we let this happen? And it's like, yeah, I just had an Urza Saga tick up to 3. That's all I needed to happen.
That Nadu effect.
That card.
You got that Shuko. You got that Shuko Nadu effect, brother. Shit.
Exactly. I hope I'm not as annoying as Nadu.
Oh, not at all, bro. This I would not be mad at losing this because, like, that different conversation for a different day. There was a level of inevitability that Nadu brung that was not very fun for me personally. But it's fine. It's fine. Keep going, brother. You got it.
Yeah, you can get Ghost Vacuum. I mean, like, it depends on what's happening in the moment. Say somebody does have like a combo in their graveyard, they're just waiting to recur, or they, I know they're on Breach and their LED's already in the graveyard. It's like, you know what? I'm fine because I'm going to grab Ghost Vacuum. It's going to exile that card from their graveyard and I'm going to draw a card. So guess what? I just got card draw out of it. It's sometimes you're like, hey, I need to do this now because that's what the board is showing me. But there's a ton of, 1-drop that if Relic of Progenitus, if everybody has too many cards in their graveyard and I'm feeling uncomfortable, I'll just grab a Relic Progenitus, crack it for 1. But what's fun with this is first you tap it, target player exiles a card, you draw a card. Then you crack it. Everybody exiles all their cards. You draw another card, lose another life, but then it draws you cards. So you just drew 3 cards for what? 2 mana, or if you get it off Urza Saga for 1 mana, you draw 3. 1 mana, draw 3. There's a card I think about when I think of 1 mana, draw 3. That Ancestral Recall, I believe. That card's banned. So I'm playing banned cards over here. Just 1 mana, draw 3. So Urza Saga is great in this deck. Love it. Once again, Vamp Tutor. It's a demonic tutor in this deck. It's beautiful. Wishclaw Talisman. This deck, I really like Wishclaw Talisman in it. It's just a fun. I just love it for its. You can have conversations before you pass it to somebody. You can use it to say, hey, you're hurting on mana right now, or hey, you seem like you're not about to win next turn. If I give you the Wishclaw, will you give it back to me? Because that guy's scary. And they're like, yeah, I'll do that. And you pass the Wishclaw over to them. You let them do their thing. You get it back, and then a lot of 2-card combos to win in this deck. So I would look for 1. You pass to you, I get it back. I'm trying to win. So, not to give away too much for all the people in here that play with me a lot, like Mike. But stop listening, Mike. Close your eyes. So things like that, like all these tutors, they're just getting you so much value and just straight into a win. So, that's the tutor package.
I love it, brother. Like, honestly, knowing that these tutors are multifaceted, super powerful, and can do everything from helping you get a 1 mana Ancestral Recall from Urza Saga to having a 1 mana demonic tutor if you're already set up with your Planar Void with an Imperial Seal, Vamp Tutor, and Lion Tutor. I fucking love it. So we've talked of ways to jump to the cards, but in addition to our commander who draws cards, can you talk to me about your card draw and card advantage package and more additional ways that we just see more cards in this awesome Orzhov list?
Yes. I also I totally forgot to space on this one, but
you good?
Once again, Planar Void with Beseech the Mirror. Because you bargain, guess what? You also get to draw a card for 4 mana. So 4 mana, search for whatever you want, put it into play, and draw a card. Which is pretty nice.
Cool.
Okay. Archivist of Ogma. You're in white. You play Archivist. It's great. Come down. Draw some cards while people are searching. Currency Converter. Pretty powerful card in this deck. Not only are you exiling stuff, that's all you really want it for. It draws you a card, discards a card. Guess what? I'm on creature loops. I need ways to discard my creatures that I want to reanimate and go into my loop with. So this, for 2 mana, it gets me set up to. So 4 mana, I basically get to go into my loop. I draw a card, discard like Feldar Guardian, and all of a sudden I cast my, any one of my Necromancy or Dance of the Dead, and all of a sudden I'm going into my loop. Drawing a bunch of cards. I mean, that's great. Esper Sentinel. That's turn 1. You get that down with this deck. Not only are you drawing those cards, but you're also drawing cards with your commander once that hits the battlefield. And I mean, card draw wins games. T. I don't know if anybody's figured that out yet.
I tell people all the time, if I see a turn 1 Esper in Elite, like 1 land, and maybe I'll think about it to see what the rest of the hand's doing. But if I got 2 lands in Esper, I don't really give a fuck what the rest of the hand is doing. I'm keeping the turn 1 Esper. Yeah. As we're going through the card draw package, it's so cool to see, because of synergy, we've pretty much, I'm noticing, oh shit, we've talked about most of these cards, but keep going, please, brother. Keep going. Card draw package, brother.
Yep, Silent Clearing, just a land that draws you a card. One Ring, I don't have to talk about that. Everybody knows what the One Ring does. It does hurt me, but at the same time, if I have Shielder in play, like, who cares? I'm gaining life. And then let's just, while we're in card draw, it's nice that the graveyard removal is right under it, because all that is card draw, T. That's all card draw under it. So all my graveyard removal is also card draw. So Agatha's, card draw. Bogut Trawler, it's a land, but guess what? I can exile somebody's graveyard, get a 3/1 down, also draw a card, lose life. Baron Macabre, for free, draw a card. Exile 2 things out of graveyards. And it's not target player's graveyards, it's just 2 target cards from graveyards. So you can hit 2 separate people's graveyards on 2 things that you don't want to exist, and you're drawing cards. Ghost Vacuum, 1 mana, put on the battlefield. Every turn I'm drawing a card.
Wow.
Planar Void, nuts card draw. I mean, it is, if you go watch that video with Cam, like, I think I was drawing like 6 cards a turn, and then it got to 9, and then I was drawing like 12, and it was just, I was like, oh my gosh, everybody's like, you're gonna kill yourself here, and I was like, I knew I built my deck around to not die to things like that. So which I will say, for everybody that watched that video, I did mess up when I did go into that loop, like we talked about earlier, that Flare of Fortitude. as soon as I go to that discard step, that would have fizzled. So you cannot flare to not die. So I just want to be very clear about that. It is something that was pointed out to me. It will not happen again. I now know. But it is something that I've seen Necro players do with Necropotence, and not thinking that because I keep going into another loop of it ends it. So so that's all. So much card draw. So I mean that's almost that's 13 instances of card draw, and that's not even talking about flickers. That's just the actual card draw and graveyard removal.
Man, I love this, and I actually had to throw this in there because people were asking me about Fairy Macabre for my Hashaton list, and I was like, it doesn't make the full cut, because why do I really want to discard this to bring a 3/3 version back? I'm like, not really. But for this list, this card is awesome. It basically just says discard this card. It's basically says it's a cantrip. It literally is. I wrote down on my note paper, # cantrip. That's all it is. You just discard it, you draw a card. That's it. As long as your commander's on board. I love it.
If you change the way that this is set up, instead of going off of like where I put them in categories, if you actually look at mana cost, I changed it to a 0 drop, because I will A, never cast it, and B, it will always just be a 0 drop card. Draw a card, exile 2 things. When somebody's going for a breach line, if I'm afraid of breaches coming, I'll sit on it. Instead of using his card draw, I will interact with the LED and stop them. Tons of potential to stop people from doing shenanigans in their graveyard.
100%. Nice. Yeah, I ain't mad at that. But yes,
I will say that's where skill comes in, because you have to make those decisions on do I want to draw a card now, or am I scared of that player and I'm going to sit on this card, like this graveyard removal, to make sure that they don't win the game on the next turn. So 100%. You do have to teeter on that, because a lot of these things you can only draw the cards on your turn if something leaves, it gets exiled.
100%. You touched on a huge point that I say this every video, and I'll say it again. We build heuristics, I think that's how you pronounce that word, that help us play faster in cEDH, and I love that about us. However, when you're politicking, or whether you're just evaluating the board state yourself, like B-Rad brought up, you have to look at the board state as a whole for what is going on, and sometimes let go of those patterns that we've used to make us play faster, in order to say, hold on, look at the board. Do I actually need this Fairy Macabre as a card draw for myself? Or do I see a T&K player who's pretty much set up with a Ranger Captain, the EOS, like lined up to be able to do their line and just to be able to set up for a breach line, and they're a little tight on cards, but can I hit them? Can I hit their, for example, their brain freeze on their first loop before everything just goes kaput or whatever? Now, granted, that the way the stack that resolves is a little funky, because the storm resolves first and then the original. But for that example, like knowing when to push your own advance your own game plan versus knowing when to just sit back, just comes from evaluating the board state for what it is. So we could talk about that all day, but you know what that makes me think about? Removal and interaction. B-Rad, can you tell me about the removal and interaction package for this deck?
I would be so happy to talk about removal and interaction with you.
Yes.
So this, as you can see, you're like, oh, you're playing black-white. Why do you have 20 interaction spells? Because I can. Angel's Grace. T, you know my feeling about it. You and I are on the same level with Angel's Grace.
Yeah.
This card stops Thassa's people from winning. It stops people, but guess what? Not only does it do that, it helps me not lose the game if I want to go for it on my turn, because I easily kill myself with this deck. So Angel's Grace has 2 modes in this deck, stopping other people from winning and stopping me from killing myself. Now I'm so excited. We talked about removal early in this. I think board wipes need to be relevant again. People are playing so many creatures in this mid-range that we're playing right now, and all these changes. Games are going a little longer. People are getting crazy creatures in play. This card, Damn, it's a 1. If I want to use it just to remove 1 creature, cool. But my commander is indestructible. I can Damn, kill a bunch of creatures. Guess what? Sometimes I want to kill, so say I played Abdel early, I can play Abdel 1 turn if I have Damn in my hand. I'll hit my own creatures, and people are like, what's going on? Why'd you hit all your own creatures? Like, what's going on? Next turn, silence Damn. All of a sudden, I wipe the board. All my creatures come back. Abdel goes to the graveyard. If I have the other piece to now go right into a to bring it back from the graveyard, Dance the Dead. Now I'm doing my combo, drawing all my cards, and I'm already silent. So guess what? I wipe the board, and now I get to go for it. So I put my own creature in the graveyard so I can go for it, or 100%. Or Feldar Guardian or anything like that. Deadly Relic, my commander is always going to try to be in play. Granith is in a weird spot. It's just such a good card. There's so many times I'm like, it doesn't do anything else in this but stop other people from playing their commanders or from the graveyard, but that's good enough for me to keep it in. There's times I want to cut it, but it's just too good.
It's the best Stax piece in the cEDH in my opinion. Y'all can at me, and
100%.
y'all can go back. We can talk if y'all want, but there's in this format where we have a free card in the command zone, and this says you can't use that free card you have for 2 mana. I think it's the best Stax piece, but we can go back. I still don't run it, but that's just me though. But I no one can argue me out that hill. I think it's the best one, but keep going, brother.
So I'm already on Dam. I'm already on Flare of Fortitude. This gives all my creatures indestructible. So if I do want to go for a crazy win on my turn while also getting rid of everybody's commanders and stuff, because I'm thinking about cards like all the deflecting swats and the fierce guardianships. Your commander's not in play, guess what you're not doing? Free counterspelling me. So if I want a Flare of Fortitude, nobody interacts with that, and then I go for a Dam and say they don't interact with that, or maybe they have to use their free counterspell on this, and when I go for it, now I got that out of their hand. So plus if I do Dam, all my creatures now have indestructible, and my life total can't change. Flare of Malice is it's to sack my commander when I don't want to die. But guess what? It also gets rid of all the big creatures on the board. People are playing Hullbreaker Horror. People are playing things like Consecrated Sphinx again. Like, that card's made a big comeback. There's so many big creatures that are hit. Seaborn Muse, guess what? It's probably your only 5-drop, in your deck if you're playing like, maybe not. Like Kinnan would probably have more, but getting rid of a Seaborn Muse by just sacking like a imp when I'm kind of like, I got nothing else going on and I'm pretty scared of that. Let me sack my imp here, get rid of that Seaborn Muse so they can't keep untapping their land.
100%.
Grand Abolisher, it does Grand Abolisher
Silence
things.
effects. Yep.
Silence effects. Imp's Mischief is a really cool. I love that this card in this deck. It's basically like a change the target of a spell with a single target. You lose life equal to its mana cost. I'm gaining life. I'm also hurting myself, so I might as well really lean into it. It is my way of stopping somebody from maybe like bouncing one of my pieces I need. Great card for counter spells and things like that.
Yep.
And then Orcish Bowmaster, we already talked about Lane Arbor. Let's talk about Parallax Wave. This card is nuts in my deck. 4 mana drop. It's an enchantment. So a lot of the things don't hit it. You can get Swan Song, but there's a lot of things that aren't hitting it, like a lot of free counter spells that aren't hitting it, or things like that. But it is fading 5, which means it comes in with 5 counters. I can remove 1 fade counter from it to exile a creature from the game, which also draws me a card, loses me a life. Every upkeep, you remove one of those counters, and when you go to your upkeep and you cannot remove a counter from it, that is when it's going to sack, and all those creatures come back into play. So there are a lot of things you can do with this. You can exile, say I usually like exile like 3 to 4 creatures with it. So say I hit everybody's commander plus something else. I'm drawing 4 cards. For 4 mana, I draw 4. Pretty good. Lose 4 life.
That's pretty,
and then
pretty fucking good.
They're gone for. Plus, I can choose how much I want to do it, and there's no there's no restriction on it. I can let it sit for 5 and all right, let's see what people do, and then start removing fade counters from it. And draw cards while I'm at it. And then, not to mention, if I want to reset it, I just go ahead and do my I can just cast Feldar Guardian
and
flicker
just flicker that junk,
and go, all right, let's reset it. Now let's reset and exile those creatures again, draw another 3. So for another 4 mana, I just get to do it all over again. So just, it's card draw. It's 4 mana removal and card draw while it just sits there. Feldar Exuberant Shepherd's great. Flash, I usually get it down early on somebody end step. Then I just start attacking and exiling pieces of theirs that I don't want in play during my turn. Or, say somebody has a 1 ring on 3. I'm like, yeah, let's exile that. Let's put it back to 1.
Yes.
And I'd rather give them the 1 card draw now to not, have to deal with it, later. But on top of it, I'm also just exiling my own stuff. A lot of times this thing gets pretty big. It'll become a 4/4 or a 5/5 just because I'll keep hitting my own stuff. Like we just talked about, the Parallax Wave. I can hit that. I can hit, say I Agatha's Soul Cauldron, something silly, and then I also want to exile something else. I attack, I flicker Agatha's, say I was exiling non-creatures and I don't care. Now I can Agatha's something else, or I can use any of my other graveyard removal to just draw cards. So it's basically attacks, basically draw a card and exile something from somebody's graveyard. Do that a lot. On top of, I can also hit, say I need to get back into a line with the rest in peace. Say I do rest in peace and I end up ending it without killing my commander or the Abdel, and I just leave it on the board. I can target the animate dead, flicker it, kill it, and then just go back into that loop again on my next turn, making like infinite creatures.
Okay, I fuck with that. Yeah.
So there's a lot you can do with that. It's a little puppy too. I mean, you gotta love the puppy. Silence effects, Ranger Captain Silence, Static Prison, super good in this deck. 1 mana, draw a card, and get rid of anything you want, as long as it's a non-land for basically 3 turns. Like,
wow.
That's nuts. And you can flicker it and do it all over again and keep it going. So like if that's in play with Felia, you can flicker that, exile the same thing, draw another card, just because it's basically attack, draw a card, exile the thing again. Or if something more scary comes out, you flicker it and you exile that more scary thing, and you're like, all right, you're cool, you can have that back. The Ristic Study's gone now. Swords to Plowshare. I hate that you have to use it on your turn if you want to draw a card, but 1 mana, draw a card, lose life. If I'm really about to die, say I have a big creature and I'm about to die and somebody's attacking me, I can swords my own thing before, like block, swords my own thing, and then gain that life to try to like survive to my next turn.
Right.
Just a little thing I can do. Touch the Spirit Realm is just good. You can channel it, exile something, you draw a card. 2 mana, draw a card, and get rid of something when somebody goes for a win. Walking Ballista can just kill creatures, but Winds of Abandon is the other. So I'm running 2 board wipes. Winds of Abandon exiles everything that's not mine. Draw a card, lose a life. So I mean, 6 mana, draw a card, lose a life, and exile everything on the board and give a bunch of people basics. Nobody's playing basics. They get maybe 1 or 2 lands. And then Witch's Enchanter. It's a land. It's getting rid of Ristics. It's getting rid of artifacts I don't like. It's getting rid of the orbs, like Torpal Orb. That's gonna completely shut me down. Let's get rid of that. Anything else like things that would stop artifacts?
Notably not Torpal Orb, because this is an ETB effect, but I see what you're saying though.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, but same difference. Same. I see the
same difference. But things like that. Yeah,
stacks pieces or whatever not.
Stacks pieces. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's my interaction. There's a lot of it. It has a lot of good use, and all of it almost draws me a card.
Wow. Yeah. Notably, I did want to say this. One of the things that kind of like at first when I was hearing about this commander, I was kind of like, I'm not seeing it, was because the first exile effect I was thinking about is what you brought up, was like Swords to Plowshare and Path to Exile. I'm just thinking like, when would I ever want to use an instant speed effect at sorcery speed? Because like, I mean, my mantra is instant speed is king. That was my first one. However, like, despite that fact, you're right that maybe I don't want to use this during my turn, or I have to use it because I want to keep storming off, or I just need to see a little bit deeper. I do love that you have to counter my own point, that you have so many effects that can consistently let you draw cards, like with the Static Prism, or the little puppy dog, the Phalia Exuberant Shepherd. There's so many cool lines that allow you to continue to draw those cards during your turn. So that is one thing that if you all are hesitant upon this, like I can only draw cards during my turn, please trust me. If by this point you haven't got it, there's a lot of ways to just get that consistent flicker effect. It doesn't have to be a one-off cast of a Swords to Plowshare or Path to Exile. So really, really awesome. But we know how you're removing people's stuff, but how are you protecting your board? In addition to everything you've already said, of course, but talk to us. Key source or protection or package?
Yeah, I mean, protection is pretty much all the interaction we kind of just went over. Okay. All the silence effects. Flare can make things hexproof if I need to. Yeah. I guess this is protection for me, but I guess we touch on it for a second. But Children of Corliss is just really good in this deck. If you pay 28 life and you're still going through a loop trying to get to that win con, you haven't hit it yet because you're just not lucky. And that's why we play so much redundancy, because you're bound to hit like 3 out of the, there's usually like 3 cards that can get you to those win cons. So you're bound to hit 1 of 3 eventually if you have 1 in hand. Children can say, hey, I lost 20 life. let's gain 20 life again and let's draw 20 more cards.
Right.
And see if we can get there in 20 more cards. So that's gonna kind of protect me from dying, as well as just all the silence effects. Those are I'm on Grand Abolisher,
Ranger Captain,
Silence, like those. I see a lot of people playing the 2 mana that everything costs 3 more. I think I just can't bring myself, because I'm in white. Defense grid. I just can't bring myself to play that. I hate you pass turn and all of a sudden somebody wins. Like, I can't.
I don't think you need it. There's so many.
Yeah,
now, like, I mean, granted, you don't get access to Fairy, you don't get access to Revelant Silence. That's on the black of Flame Scroll Celebrant. But I feel like I would rather run, what is that 1 mana spell that targets a player? And it's a targeted silence effect. It's in. I'm gonna pull it up if I can find it.
Oh yeah, there's a new one. There's not a new one. It's really old, but there's one if you go to combat. It's 2 mana and you end combat immediately and nobody else can cast spells. And I was thinking about putting that in here because I'm not killing anybody with combat. So like it'd be really easy just like go to combat. Yep, I'll cast this for 2. Nobody counters. Okay, go to second main. Now do my loop. It's definitely one of those things that have been where Draneth has been on the board, the edge, where I'm just like, could I do another silence effect or do I need Draneth?
I hear you.
So that's one of those cards where I just keep coming back, and I'm sure I have it somewhere in here. I'm trying to see 100%. Where it is.
Another one that I was actually the one I was as you're pulling that one up, please don't forget that one. The one I was referring to is honestly just Ormchant. It's not my first choice that I'd ever choose, but like it being able to stop somebody's with the kicker effect where you can stop, they can make all their dual caster mage tokens, and at the beginning of combat before they go to attackers, you can just kicker this Ormchant and say you can't attack this turn and you can't cast spells. Now in a Ristic Study meta, if you have 2-3 opponents for Ristic Study, it's a little tough. Who do I silence? I don't know then, but I do like the defensive ability. I mean, the offensive ability to say, I don't want you to be able to cast spells. Or I don't want you to be able to attack. Notably also, if the one player has a lot of attackers, you could say at the beginning of combat, hey, are you attacking me? Like, well, you can't tell me anything. You can't politic me. I'm attacking you. I'm like, all right, okay, let's just stop this all together and say you can't attack me this turn. So I love Ormchant. I honestly kind of love it in your list a little bit, but yeah, I know you had another one you were going to bring up as well.
It's Mandate of Peace. It's an instant 2 mana. Cast a spell only during combat. Your opponents can't cast spells this turn. And it immediately ends the combat phase. So basically you just go, I got a combat, 2 mana. All right, silence, basically. Can't cast spells. So I've definitely thought about that. There's the one you just talked about that is also good. But, there's so many other cards that I just want more redundancy to just keep going for that win. And if somebody does counter me, a lot of times it's going to my graveyard, and I have a lot of recursion to just go, okay, I'm going to recur it. Let's see if we can stop this time. So there's a lot of that. And once again, I can, when they're doing that, like if I have Planar Void in play, sure, you countered me, I'm drawing 2 cards. Let's see what I get there. Just a lot of things like that, but I definitely think there needs to be one more piece of protection. It's just I'm having a hard time finding what to cut.
Yeah, if I can kind of add on to what you say, like I've seen Mandate of Peace once or twice before, but what I like about it's just thinking out loud. I'm throwing against the wall. What I like about this in your list specifically is because there's an end of combat phase. Like there's a point after. Damage has been done before you go to your main phase. I think it's just that's called end of combat. You can literally still leverage combat, gain some life, and then during the end of combat, before you go into your main phase, you technically can still cast this. Now, technically it's a little less flexible than the Ormchant. However, if you're just looking to, like I said, are you looking to stop your opponents from playing the game, or are you focused on mainly just trying to combo off and do your thing? And that shifts from if you're more turbo, if you're more mid-range, you're more stacks, that's a whole different conversation. But I can see this being something that's viable if you're more focused on I'm trying to protect myself. I have a heavy Ristic Study meta, and I'm also in the spot where I really can't have that only stop one person when consistently I'm going against those multiple blue pots, the Kennons, the TNTs, the TNKs, where I can't just stop one person from casting spells. Everyone needs to get shut off, you know? So I could see this being a viable thing that you leverage if that's the direction you go. I personally, like I said, I love about 4 to 5 sound effects per each of my lists. So you're on the way to doing that. So I ain't mad at you at all. I am not mad at that at all. Fuck Draneth. Like,
yeah, no,
aside,
honestly,
but,
like I keep coming back to that. I'm like, is Draneth? Is it good? Like, I don't care. I'm eating graveyards anyway. So what am I? I'm getting rid of Draneth.
Just take it. I'll throw this in as you're making that switch. Just take this as a grain of salt. Hypothetically speaking, say if you were to take Draneth out for Orim's Chant. Hypothetically speaking, yes, you're not staxing people out starting as early as turn 1. But on that turn, when they decide to push, once they put that Grand Abolisher on the stack and they're doing all, and everyone's fighting over the Grand Abolisher, at the end of the stack, everybody said, we're all out. Okay, how about this? Pop you with the Orim's Chant, and I don't even want you to be able to attack with your Tymna because you're a TNK player. I'm going to shut everything off for 2 white at instant speed that I can also use this to help me. It's not just stopping you. I can also use this to help me in those instances that you do have a low draw pod, or I'm only worried about a certain piece of interaction from a specific player. Yes, Draneth is great. Like I said, it is the best stacks piece in our format. I do think there are other cards that you can get a similar effect. You just have to shift your mindset and how you see using interaction. Where for TTC, I'm instant speed is king. So I'm going to choose to run Orim's Chant over Draneth every time. But that's just
and so I mean, let's talk about Mandate of Peace. Also, the fact that it ends the combat phase, I didn't really think about this, but it removes all attackers and blockers, exile all spells and abilities on the stack. So if somebody does try to do some weird shenanigans during combat phase, I can literally just be like, Mandate of Peace. If that doesn't get countered, it just, whatever spell they cast on the stack just gets removed from the stack.
Oh, but it exiles. You're 100%.
Exile all spells and abilities from the stack.
You're right. Notably, and I thought this was only during
Plus it exiles
your
them.
Yeah.
So I exile the spells too, so that even feeds into KETRAMOSE. So that card's great.
Is that? Hold on. Is that? You know the commander better than me. I thought it was just from the battle. Whenever one of our cards are put into exile from the graveyard,
but it will turn me on to attack or block. Because if a card is exiled, it won't draw me a card, but it definitely feeds into me having 7 cards in exile.
100%. And if I can also add on to this, I thought this was only cast during your combat. It says cast this spell only during combat. So anybody's turn, and I'm going to just bring TNK up because they are the meta, but they are the meta that we're always trying to bust. To be honest, they let a lot of times what TNK players would do in their winning turn, they will still leverage Tymna to get 1 to 3 extra cards, whether it's the top deck tutor for the last piece, and for you to be able to say, hey, during your combat, at the end of the combat, when you put that vampire tutor in the stack before you go into your main phase, or because I see you just drew 3 cards, let's just go in and shut this down. We have that intuition. Our gut is saying, they're about to push for a win. They're kind of really set up. Let me go ahead and just mandate a piece. So you're selling me on a silence. I love silence effects, and you're selling me on one that I've looked past so many times, like the once or twice I saw it. Like,
and think about people with carpet of flowers, like a carpet of flowers player. If they don't, they're like, I'll just do it my next. I'm literally just, this is all coming to me in this moment. Like, if somebody with carpet of flowers, like, I'll activate on my next turn. They're like, okay, I'll pass through combat, and I'm like, wait.
Into combat,
and they have all their mana open because they're just planning on going into phase 2 and casting their like win con mandate a piece during your combat, and they're like, what? And all of a sudden, like, they can't use their carpet. They have all this mana open that they were maybe gonna go for like a win, or like maybe they're gonna cast Breach in their second main because they wanted the carpet, triggers to go in the next, and they just decided to go into second main. Like, this card can surprise somebody and just shut them down from being able to do their thing.
100%. So this is my only thing. I love the direction we're heading. I always do this whenever I'm thinking about, like, how do I beat my own idea? And the only thing is, in an instant speed based meta where everyone is trying to win at instant speed behind protection, it's just, they literally can say, okay, fine, I don't get the mana right now. And if they have Valley Born or E-Zone, like a Crop Rot to move into E-Zone, they can still win later, but that still buys us more time. And in addition, you're not a control deck. Like, I say this to say, like, it doesn't fully attack the instant speed nature of where the format is at right now. But the thing is, though, you're not trying to be a control deck. This is not the intent to control people. It's either to buy you another turn to exile the spell they put on this deck during the combat, or to protect yourself, because you don't need to win. What's it called? You don't need to. Your opponents can't cast spells this turn. Notably, this even works as you're doing your cleanup loops, because this is say till end of turn. But this is you're not trying to be control deck. You are attempting to protect your own win with all the storming you plan on doing, or protect yourself from not dying from someone trying to swing lethal at you. So the more I talk about it for your list, do I think this is a cEDH staple? I don't.
No,
I need to think about it longer.
No.
I got to think about it longer.
No,
for your list. With saving life, for having more protection, for having an instant speed way to interact, and with there are decks that leverage combat in a lot of unique ways. Well, I think this is worth testing. This is
even let's get into if somebody goes for a dual caster mage line, this stops them from winning the game.
It does. You're 100%. And dual caster mage is still a way that we, especially in those Jund or Rakdos decks, that is still a way to end the game.
Yeah,
100%.
So that stops that. There's Winota. I'm just going through my head. Also, like, I don't know if you have to cast it if you're really low on life and somebody's like throwing like 8 damage at you with this.
Oh,
deck
that's the main thing I'm thinking about.
You're just like, let's just not take 8 damage right now and put me to 2 or 1 or kill me. Let me have one more turn and see what I can do with it.
In a deck that you literally tell me that the weakness is that you take so much damage from your opponents, I'm gonna be honest, that was the first thing that came in my head. I'm like, I can stop dual caster mage, yes, stop all these other things. I can make it like you talk about, like, I don't know if I can get another turn. You digging through your library, you see this card. I'm literally just holding on to this card just in case, and you fizzle out. You're like, all right, well, this guy got 1 damage, this guy got 2, but this guy got about 15 damage. How about we just use this for their combat? This is the way to buy that extra turn, hypothetically speaking.
Yurko, if I'm playing against Yurko, it's a way to not let them draw a bunch of cards, and they have a bunch of ninjas. And I don't know. I just added it. I took out Drannith because Drannith is always that card that, bro. It literally is always like in and then it's out, then it's in, then it's out. For sure. It's just one of those cards that I always end up just not being sure about. But I think in this list, I don't need it. I'm already doing graveyard shenanigans. If they cast their commander, I have a ton of exile effects, board wipes. Like, I don't think I need it. Like, I can Damn, I can Deadly Relic, I can Path, I can Parallax Wave, I can flicker it out with you don't Felia,
bro.
Static Prison, Touch,
you get it.
Winds of Abandonment. Yeah.
You understand why I don't run it, because everyone says, where's Drannith? I'm like, I think it's like I literally say the same line. It's the best stacks piece in the game. It just doesn't fit my play style. I'm not trying to stop people with a stacks piece. I want to stop them at instant speed. But also because Drannith doesn't do anything for me, unless it's like, for example, I do have to counter my own statement where you're Jolly Balloon Man. I like Drannith in there.
Oh yeah,
because you can use what is our Pyre of Heroes.
To sack it. We can just get rid of it.
Exactly.
Go get my win con.
Exactly. We can sever the pyre to do it for human to human, but we're not pyring heroes in this deck, so I can't even make an argument for that. So we can talk about that all day. Our next category actually notably is Stax and Tax, but we gotta hit it during our interaction file, and we're even talking about taking out Stax pieces. So just to ask, like, I don't even think I saw a Smothering Tithe in this list, if I'm correct. Is there any
there's Smothering Tithe.
There is? Okay, good.
It's in ramp, so I guess I'll go in ramp real quick.
Well, before we do that, is there any other Stax or Tax pieces that you really want to touch on? I know we'll touch on Smothering Tithe in a second, but anything else? Or are we just saying fuck
Smothering
Stax?
Tithe? I mean, I this is which is weird to say about myself, but I just say the graveyard stuff is the Stax. Like all the graveyard stuff we've already talked about. Like my Stax is just anti-graveyard, and that shuts down so many decks. It really does. Like, so many people I've been playing against are just like, what? Like, this is nuts. Like if I drop a Planar Void, they're like, what? Like, everything is just exiled from graveyard, like,
forever for 1 mana out turn 1.
What? Turn 1? Yeah. So I mean, my Stax pieces are just, the Smothering Tithe, the graveyard hate. Just there's tons of just random crap in here that is kind of Staxy, but not really. But
I'm
not too much Stax here.
I'm not mad at you at all.
Trying to go vroom vroom vroom. across the
100%.
country as fast as possible.
I feel you there, brother. I want to give first shout out to Bissy Baxton, shout out to Patreon member, the homie, TC Discord member, amazing brewer and everything. He said, notably, Tymna decks are better second main decks when there's switched to the grind. So like basically saying that, like we brought up earlier, Tymna decks are leveraging that second main phase to win a lot more. So seeing how a lot of Tymna Thrashios, TNT, we also have, I think there's some people who do I can't remember. There's just a lot of Tymna variants out there because it's such a good commander right now in this post-ban world. This mandate of peace, honestly, shit, this may be its own topic, but if y'all know the people who run, that's a good card. Have them talk about this card if they haven't already. Like I would love to hear them like kind of break down this card in like the current meta as they see it. So before we get into our next category, which you've already hit it, which is our ramp, I just want to tell the audience, if you love the show and you've been loving what we've been talking about, I want to take some time to say, if you're looking for more ways to support the show, we have a plethora. Of course, we have our free to join Discord, the TC community. They rock, they keep the lights on, and they just keep the energy up. Honestly, when it comes to talking about spoilers, brewing tactics, and as well as jamming games and just having a good time talking. But if you want extra ways to support the show and extra perks like playing on our live streams, shouts and streams in the YouTube videos, as well as free proxies and discount codes, and just so much more, please check out the Thunder Legion Patreon community. These guys rock and they keep the lights on the way that they could not imagine. I'm going to give a huge shout out to our Mono Red patrons, Wavy Ashira, Bissy Baxton, The Praetor, and B-Rad. Like I said, these guys rock and they keep the lights on the way they could not imagine. But if you say AT, I don't want the Patreon, the proxies, or the perks. I just want to say one time for the fun time, I love what you would do and I want to support you. Don't worry. Check the link out in the bio. You can buy me a coffee. It keeps me up and keep the lights on. But let's get back into it, B. Come on, man. Like, we talking about ramp now. We got to go vroom, vroom. We're not a turbo deck, but we can win fast. So let's talk about our ramp package, brother.
I guess just a touch. Shieldred, I guess, would be another stacks piece. So I guess I got like 2 stacks-ish pieces for draw. But all right, ramp. Ramp, we're playing things, Cabal Ritual. I mean, we're not going to get, all the rocks. You got to have the rocks, Dark Ritual. Felwar Stone, I'm playing a lot because I need to have a good amount of mana going into my turn to be able to do a lot of things. Even though everything's so cheap, there's multiple things I'm trying to get out to get into my lines. So Grim Hireling, great in this deck. I'm on 27 creatures. Some of them I'm okay with them dying. A lot of them are 1/1s if somebody doesn't have a blocker yet. Getting some treasures, sacking treasures to kill some stuff if I need to. It's another removal piece. Lion's Eye Diamond, this is an interesting ramp piece I want to touch on. I guess this is a great moment. So I am a big Bomberman player. I love Bomberman combos. I had it in this deck list. The fact that you can activate Bomberman in response. So, I am on Planar Void. Once again, that's you can respond to that. So I can Lion's Eye Diamond, use Bomberman to put Lion's Eye Diamond back in my hand with the trigger on the stack, and I can make infinite mana and not care about the Planar Void, which is awesome and exactly where you want to be. And at the end of it, I'll leave Lion's Eye on the table and not draw a card off of it, but that's not what you're trying to do in that moment. But and then if you're able to do things like that, you also can respond. So because you're playing things like the Flash Enabler, you can also just like respond to triggers. So if you are in like a loop of discarding cards, you can, if you do have that instant speed, you can literally keep responding and just keep racking those triggers, those draw triggers on the stack while making infinite mana. And then when you finally let off, you can say, okay, now I'll draw my 14 cards, that all those 14 draw triggers that were on the stack. Because now LED doesn't matter. You discarded your hand or whatever. And now you're going to draw 14 cards. LED's in play. Draw your 14 cards, see what you got. You got infinite mana. Start working with what you got. Cast everything. And then you're like, oh, I didn't get there yet. Let's do it again. And then you can start discarding, discard loop, keep those triggers on the stack. And then once again, with the infinite mana, like wait till you hit like a walking ballista or something.
Right.
But that's pretty cool. Like the ability to do that in this deck was cool. But with it currently, Lion's Eye Diamond is great when, like I just said, you say you just have one card in your hand and it's your creature that you need in the graveyard to start looping. Maybe you have a deadly animate dead. You used it early game to steal somebody's something, and it's just sitting there, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, I will start say I have a discard outlet or something, you can start discarding to draw, leave those on the stack, then crack LED in response to those all on the stack, and then discard your hand, whatever you have left. Maybe it's what you needed to discard, and then you have like 4 draws on the stack. You draw 4 cards. Now you still have a hand to work with after LED. You have 3 mana of whatever color you chose, and then you can go into it, as well as like the end of turn loops. It's another way to just not die. Like say you're like, I just need to not die here. I have nothing. I'm gonna crack my LED, just discard my hand, and I know I have enough stuff in play that's gonna exile graveyards and things that I know on my next turn I can start drawing. I can draw 2 cards, 3 cards, get back in this game like pretty quickly, depending
100%.
on what you draw as well. So
100%. I love the multi-use for LED, especially that last one. Where it's not people's favorite thing to hear, like discard your whole hand, but I'm like, no, with the amount of card draw, with the natural hate that our list provides, sometimes we do just gotta say, hey, I need to stop this loop and not die. I foresee that I'm gonna die, so I love that. Before I want to ask, go ahead, brother. Yeah.
And then the part I wanted to say that most people don't, I don't know if a lot of people don't know about it. I don't see it. It's something that I run a lot. But I usually also, so I'm not right now, and the reason I took Bomberman out was, if I'm going to run Bomberman, I want to run Vexing Bauble. And the fact is I have a couple of free spells that I need to cast to not die. And if I get into a situation where I'm like, crap, I tapped out, I have Vexing Bauble in play now, I can't kill my commander, I'm just dead. Like, I'm just going to die because I'm going to counter my own thing. I can't get around it. But Bomberman, LED plus Vexing Bauble, once you get Vexing Bauble in you do your Bomberman loop, make infinite mana with Vexing Bauble in play, crack Vexing Bauble, it goes in the graveyard. Now with infinite mana, you can keep returning Vexing Bauble, you get to draw your deck. So Lion's Eye Diamond, Bomberman, Vexing Bauble equals draw your whole deck with infinite mana and then cast your whole deck. And
Got you. I hear that. I see. So within like the Bomberman discussion, it was like, it's something you really love, especially because you do have that walking Ballista outlet, but not being able to run the Vexing Bauble to support it kind of made it feel like, hey, respectfully, but I will say it does actually, your list has a lot of 1 mana, 1 and 0 mana artifacts even within.
True.
Yeah, so like I was thinking, like, because the problem with it with RX Savages and a lot of lists is that it's just a combo piece and it's a dead card. But notably in your list, you have, in addition to your rocks, you run the Relic of Progenitus, of course your LED, but you got the currency converter, like you got the
Brood. Alter the Brood is really important.
Alter the Brood, like being able to recur those pieces. And so I struggle with it. You could say one thing and convince me to put it right back in 5 seconds. Like, it is one of my favorite utility cards to have, and all I would need to do is cut 2 cards and I could easily put it back in. Because I want to be on Vexing Bauble at that point. Right. And can I ask this? First 2 things. Audience, if you all have feelings, y'all have heard a lot of the list thus far. If you have any thoughts or comments on RX Salvagers for this list specifically based off what you've heard, please drop it down below in the comments section or inside the stream chat. I'd love to get your opinions. We would both love that. TDC's opinion, though, is like, I love the Vexing Bauble synergy, and it makes the combo more worthwhile. But kind of a thought that comes to my mind is, if you know it's almost a non-negotiable to be able to cast your flares, what if you just did RX Salvagers and said, yeah, I love Vexing Bauble, but maybe there's something else you could loop with this. Like, for example, you could loop your Relic of Progenitus. You don't have to, it exiles except fuck.
I thought I could do that. I was like, oh, I don't need Vexing Bauble, I can do this. And then I went to do it, like, I was in a game and I was like, I was telling somebody, I was like, I can just loop, and they were like, no, it exiles itself. And I was like, oh no,
damn it. Magic being smart.
I got excited.
But no, like, I'm sure that, like, I guess that is where, like, at this point I'd go into like, what 1 to 0 mana artifacts do have the word draw card within it that we can loop outside of Relic and Vexing Bauble. But even more, like, you have a big enough the point I'm trying to make is you have a big enough package of 1 and 0 mana blocks where RX Salvagers is not always just dead. It just can be a recursion piece. Because I'm not gonna lie, if I'm playing against you and I have a mental misstep and I see you put an Altar of the Brood on the stack, I'm going to mental misstep it. Especially if you have a planar reward on the board, and be able to say, well, I have a combo piece and recursion piece within RX Salvagers. Granted, it may take a little setup because it's 6 mana to first get it, then really put it back, then another one to recast it. But it's just another. It's like, it makes it less of a dead card in the list. But the tough thing,
100%.
Yeah, the tough thing for me is I don't know what you would take out for it. If I can just be fully
I know that's the hardest part. I took it out for, where is it? The, I guess, Liberator Urza's Badathopter now, but I took it out for the haste enabler of artifacts, so I can get mana at, like, discard at the end of my turn. Yeah, so that was the switch.
Okay, question. Just throwing this out there. How would you feel about I know you said you love the ramp and also the sorcery speed removal. How would you feel about taking out Grim Hireling, the treasure generator? Even though it's phenomenal, I thought the ceiling is a 6 mana treasures, but we're saying there's such a creature meta. Sometimes a creature meta you may not be able to get through as a 2 mana body, but you take out the Grim Hireling with. That's a really high ceiling for maybe something like the RX Salvagers. You take out 1 4-mana creature for another 4 mana, or is that the Grim Hireling too busted in the list from what you've seen thus far? I'm just asking.
It's not that. No, I get it. It's not that it's busted in the list, but it makes life so much easier having that extra mana from those treasures, and that I have all those. I think what I was looking at is, like, I guess what I could drop. I could just drop Dam and go down to the 1 board wipe.
Yeah.
I know I'm really excited about the board wipe, but 4 mana overload, destroy all creatures, I think is just really powerful. But if I want to just stick with combo-ness and less of, like, it's gonna get countered every time. I'm 90% sure that Dam will get countered 90% of the time. But at least it pulls a counter out of their hand for when I cast that maybe first, then go for, like, a combo piece right after. But
right.
Yeah, okay. I guess Grim Hireling would be an interesting.
It would be.
I do have a lot of.
Yeah, we as you think about that, I don't want to overload your thoughts, but I want to throw in some things that Newsom just threw into the chat. Newsom just threw into the chat Conjurer's Bauble, TTC. It is a 1 mana artifact that says tap, sacrifice Conjurer's Bauble, put up to 1 target card from your graveyard into the bottom of your library, and then draw a card. I don't know if the resolution it says up to, so it doesn't matter. Either way, you can loop this to draw your library. And I don't know if there's any cards that go to the graveyard that you want to go back into the library. There's a synergy, but it's not my favorite thing. But if you were looking for another effect at 1 mana that lets you loop, that you can loop to draw your list, there is that option. I still kind of think you may not need it, but need the effect in addition to Walking Ballista, because notably you can just get Walking Ballista out the Ranger Captain. Like, there's a lot of options to help push it forward. But I do actually want to add on to what Bissy said as well. At 4 CMC, I think the card needs to have its own standalone impact. Yes, it's a combo piece if. Yes, it's a recursion piece if. But casting RX for the if of an A plus B plus C plus in parentheses D isn't worth keeping in a mode tapping out or raising your threat level. And that is a fair point, basically stating that trying to use RX Salvagers as a recursion piece may not be worth it if it's going to be removed, because everyone sees it as a combo piece. Most times it is like, I'm playing this card to win. I'm going to play this, play the Science Effect, play this, then win the game with the LED with infinite mana. And so I say all that to say, like, I kind of hear where Bissy's coming from, where is it worth running if you're just going to increase your threat level to use it for value plays? And at that point.
And plus, I would definitely have to drop a 4-drop, because I'm already running Shieldred. I'm running the Feldar Guardian. That's another 4-drop. That was another part where I was like, I just had Abdel's 5. Like, hopefully I'm just discarding that. I don't think I've ever actually cast that card, but a lot of 4-drop creatures, and then Grim Hireling. So, like, I think you're right. If I was to drop something, it would be Grim Hireling. But I guess that mana is so important to getting those loops going and getting all that going in, like, 1 turn. Just to, like, swift attack, get 4 treasures, and then immediately go into a loop to win the game. Like, I think that's really important.
If I can even add on to what you said, I agree with you 100%. One thing that epiphany that I came to mind within my own brewing is that without card draw on the command zone, even if it's as bad as like a Marnia's Calgar, where you're paying 6 to put 2 tokens to draw 1 card, there's some cards that just can't make the cut. But on the flip side, in that reverse conversation can be had, where when you have card draw on the command zone, it's okay to lean a little harder on the mana production because that's what your commander needs in order to be more viable within whatever meta you are. So the smothering tides become more powerful, and all the other things. So I can hear you where that Grim Hireling needs to be a mainstay in the list, especially because I think about like for my Brea or for my Hashaton list, there's no card draw on the command zone, so I'm not running Smothering Tide. I'm running the Necropotence or the Necrodime or whatever not. But on the flip side, you have the Necropotence in the command zone, so you don't have like you don't need more card draw. You need more mana
to use the because I'm drawing so many cards that you're like, oh god, I want to cast everything. Right. And if you don't have the mana for it, you're just like, oh, what do I cast? And then you have to be very picky and choosy and then sit on certain things. Yeah. But I will say, and this is more of just, I mean, I take the brewer out of me and as just a Magic player in general. Yeah. Bomberman in my Jolly Balloon Man deck is so nutsly, crazily awesome and good that it's good to, like for me is one of the final reasons is why I took it out was like, you know what? I do that in Jolly, like that is a staple in my Jolly Balloon Man deck. Like, do I want another deck that I'm just trying to go for the same thing? Like, I don't need it. It doesn't have to be in here. I can go for other things. Fair. And that's kind of also what it came down to. So like, and you know, I'm still being top cEDH with not having it in here, but it's like, you know, I can not have it in here and this deck is still super crazy good and LED is still good. And maybe I find that maybe I drop LED and it gives me an extra slot when I'm like, is LED really good enough to be discarding my hand and not die and trying it without it and say, hey, you know, I've got enough sack outlets that I don't need LED to like discard my hand to not die to that, and I have enough life gain that I don't need to worry about dying. So that's another thing too.
Yeah. And if I can even add before you say this last point, one notable thing is there is no infinite mana outlet. I think that the
just walking Ballista, so you'd basically just recur walking. You'd have to get walking Ballista to your you with Ariok Salvager. Once you make infinite mana, you just put walking Ballista back in your hand.
100%. But more of what I'm saying is there's no infinite mana outlet in the command zone. I think Jolly Balloon Man was a anomaly in the system, and it's the same with my Satya Aether Flux Genius list. When you are able to make copies of things and you can abuse the recruiter effects, it makes it feel like you still have an outlet, because originally Imperial Recruiter or Recruiter Guard was intended you get one creature, but when you can go Jolly Balloon Man, untap it, use it first to go get, you copy your Recruiter Guard to go get this, and then you go get something else to go get your LED, and you doing all these crazy things, it feels like you have an outlet, a card draw piece, and all these other things in the command zone, when really you only have a clone effect in the command zone. On the flip side, in this, you have no clone effect in command zone, and you don't have an infinite mana outlet. You just have the card draw, which is still huge. Yeah. But in the grand scheme of things, it makes you like just in the argument against the inclusion of Ariok is kind of like we already have so many ways to end the game. Do we need another way to make infinite mana when we can already finish the game in so many other unique ways? Kind of just trying to be devil's advocate and like kind of pushing against everything. But
plus I'm on Planar Void, which says there's gonna be times that I'm gonna sit there on Ariok and be like, shit, Planar Void turn 1, and now I have Ariok.
There's nothing in your
and I just keep exiling it. Like somebody destroyed something and they exiled it, and I don't have mana to like get it back at instant speed to my hand. You know, like now it's just gone. Now Oriok's just a 2/4. And I can't get anything in my graveyard, or they exiled my you know, if they exile the LED, like then I'm pretty much, that card is hooked.
Yeah, it's like so, it's dead at that point. Yeah.
So it kind of has a combating. It kind of bumps heads with what I'm doing also. So.
I agree. Yeah. No, yeah, I definitely hear all of that. I want to hear what your final verdict is, but what I will say is I'll read these last messages from Newsom after Bissy's recent messages. Chromatic Lantern, Norgador, that Chromatic Sphere is a bauble. The Chromatic Sphere, if you're not familiar, it is one of those effects that allow you to win through split second, but
draw a card, right?
Yeah, it just says pay once, tap it, sack Chromatic Sphere, add 1 mana of any color, and draw a card.
And then draw a card.
Yeah, it's the same thing with Chromatic Star, but this one says it has to hit the graveyard. from the battlefield, so it may not be the best effect, even if you can bring it back in response to the planar void. Like it may not, chromatic sphere may be better. But before we move on to the last finishing off the ramp package, I just want to ask, what do you feel like for now? You can feel differently a week from now, but how do you feel about REX Salvagers for now after having this discussion and hearing different perspectives?
Yeah, I think it's not needed. I think I want like you said, like I keep drawing all these cards, and if I don't have the mana to play them, like what's the point of drawing a bunch of cards if you can't get them on the table, you know? So
that's fair.
I think it's just combats too many things, and at the end of the day, like if I want to go play the shit out of that, I can just pick up Jolly Blue Man.
and
right.
I resonate with that. Yeah, I felt the same.
I think it's good in the deck, but it's just preference at that point, I think.
Yeah. No, 100%. Like I think for this one, it's one thing to talk about Necro versus Adnan. It's like, oh yeah, these are good cards, just preference. For our REX Salvagers, I just think like we're talking literally what may be healthier and better for the deck. I think it's powerful. It can do its thing very well, but you don't need another way to make infinite mana because you already have the Walking Ballista plus Heliod with the commander, even without the commander with the Agatha Cauldron. Like you have so many, and you also already have ways to make infinite mana with Abdel, and Abdel also is just it has a great synergy. It kind of goes to Ariok. It's just like do you want a way to bring things back from the graveyard when you're already putting so much attention towards hating things out of your graveyard to make your deck move forward? That's where it kind of goes to like, damn, like I don't know if it may be needed, you know? So I'm kind of with your final conclusion here, just saying let this one go. I agree. If you want to play it in another deck, just play your Jolly Blue Man deck. That's how I felt about Smothering Tide. Like if I want to play Smothering Tide, I'll go play Marnie's Calgar. But for my notably because I'm not running a bunch of big drops in my Hashaton list, like I took out all the big drops. If you all are wondering why my list has only has 1 5 drop, that's the leveler, 1 6 drop, which is Sharoom, and then there's nothing on the high end of that list. I've taken all the big drops. No, literally,
I've seen so many like Razakeths and Syntaxis and
dude, you're I was gonna bring this up later, but notably. I took all those bombs out of my list, not because they were bad, because they weren't fitting my play style. Specifically for
they get
Razaketh,
stuck in your hand sometimes.
They get stuck in the hand, but even more like for Razaketh, you need, I would say, 2-3 creatures on board to really do what you want to do. And because I don't run a lot of discard outlets either, what ends up happening is I have to use the first, I have to discard to end a turn, and then I have to use the first search for like a Born Upon the Wind or a Valley Flood Caller, and then do my stuff. So then I would need like 3-4 creatures on board. And if y'all have seen any of my gameplays, I don't play a lot of creatures on board. Even if I have 20 creatures in my deck, I keep my board state pretty lean. So with all that, it just ends up it ended up being not the best card for my play style and for my brew. Doesn't mean they're bad for y'all. This is more Hashaton talk, but that kind of goes back to asking what's best for your play style and also calling what's best for the deck. And I think for me, my play style and what was best for my deck is I had to let Razaketh go. So I still love it though. I think it's a great card. Like I could tag the gameplay up here where it literally demolished the table. It was fucking beautiful. Like that when Ranger grabbed into right there. But we're not talking about Hashaton. We're talking about KETRAMOSE. Okay,
the other Egyptian god.
We're nearing the end. I just want to thank everybody for being an amazing audience, for participating. And so we're finishing up our ramp package. We just left off the LED. Everything everything else looks pretty standard. But are any of these final cards past LED anything notable you want to bring up?
Yeah, just Lotho, staple, and these colors. And then I am on Smothering Tithe. Like I said, if I can get a bunch of treasures, it's nuts. I can do a lot of stuff with it. But yeah, other than that, I mean, we pretty much went over everything. There's no other cards that I guess I would point to that we haven't gone over. Like that's the whole deck.
I feel you. Yeah.
Does the chat have any questions about? Is there any cards?
Well, before we go to the chat, I do love to hit notably the land base, and you are 100% right. We did hit the land base, whether it comes to ramping with our Ancient Tunes and City of Traders or cucking people's graveyards with Bogart Charla. We have been blessed to be able to hit everything, and like he had brought up, notably, we are already testing out the E zone and everything. So, and we also have this awesome Urzas and Urborg as our utility lands and Witch Enchanter. But with that being said, as people are writing their final questions for the list, do you have any other specific categories that you may want to touch on, or maybe just bring up that people need to keep in mind as they're brewing or piloting this list?
Yeah, I guess I guess some things that I guess I'll touch base on real quick that we didn't talk about was the life gain spot, but I will just want to touch base on Sarah Ascendant. It's a 1-drop, gains me, like if I can get it down turn 1,
Yeah.
turn 2 I'm casting my commander hopefully, and I'm gaining 6 life. It just gives me that buffer. But not only that, is I played it in Jolly Balloon Man, and the pressure it puts on the Adnaz player is really impactful. Stopping them from, you know, Adnazing a couple extra cards, or even Necropotencing like 6 extra cards. Like that can have a huge effect, even if you just get 1 hit on them. I mean, if you get 2 hits on them, that's 12. But that's also the life gain in this deck. Like I said, people are hitting me. It's a big blocker if I get it down turn 1. As we go around the table, I'm not getting hit by like a Ragavan, and Ragavan's awesome because guess what? It's exiling cards. There's a lot of like silly cards you don't think about that are exiling stuff that turn on my commander. That people, you know, exile different things to, like the Mox, and you know, if they can't cast whatever they hit off Ragavan, if it's a land, they exile it, and all of a sudden there's a little couple more land that are exiled. Sarah Ascendant, really cool card that we didn't touch on, but that's kind of why it's in the deck, and that life gain is huge.
No, 100% I resonate. I whenever I see a Sarah Ascendant hit this deck, I'm like, fuck. Hey, I don't play Adnaz, I don't play Necro. Don't fucking hit me. Like, fuck, I like playing slow. Don't make me rush. Fuck, man. All jokes aside, I think this is like it's one of those creatures where if you love beats, please run this. If you don't love, like I don't love beats, that's not my favorite type. Way to win, don't waste your time. But I do think in the list, especially notably, that life gain is huge.
It's also a sack. The other thing is, if you see, I run a lot of white 1-drops because I can sack them to Flare Fortitude. While keeping my commander in play. If I want to go through like a main phase, draw my deck, I can literally main phase draw my deck if I stack a Sarah Ascendant, or you know, a Confessor, or you know, if I'm not able to go through a discard loop, I'll just sack Confessor because I don't have the discard loop there. I just have, you know, the ETB loop and the exile loop with like Abdel or something, with not alter, but animate dead. So you know, it's another white creature I can sack while keeping my commander in play.
100%. No, I love that, brother. Now that's good in my book. Before we hit any other, like I think the only other categories I really saw, you're 100% right, there's Recursion, but we have had the pleasure to talk about all this, our Recursion packages as well. I think the only other category that we touch it, the graveyard.
I guess Savine's Reclamation we didn't touch on. That is literally if somebody stops my Recursion, like a Dance of the Dead, Savine's goes and grabs Dance of the Dead, and I can go for it right again. You know, that card's super powerful in this deck because I have 3. It's, I guess, the key of 3. Everything's 3s. I have 3
rule of 3.
Rule of 3. I guess I had the rule of 3. I got 3 recursions. I have 3 flicker the recursion. So like, if somebody counters or they're messing with it, you know, Savine's can just get me right back into it. Because guess what? I'm the one who exiles graveyards, not you. So
right,
so I choose not to exile my stuff unless Planar Void's in play. But
100%. No, yeah, I feel that. Yeah, honestly, we have a couple questions more from the audience, but before we get, I'm going to ask TTC's question. I have been in love with the card that I've been talking to basically a lot about in both Necro decks, but just decks in general that since the loss of J-Lo, since the loss of Mana Crypt and Dockside, this card has been, I've been in love with this card. I'm just not gonna lie. Whether you're doing turbo, mid-range stacks, it's fucking good. And this card is called Reign of Filth. If you are not familiar.
Yep, second lands.
Yeah, like it just says pay a black, instant speed, until end of turn, land you control gain, sack this land, add a black. And after hearing this deck tech, what I really like, the idea of what I love about this card in your list is that in the midst of your best card, Planar Void, you can be in the midst of your storm turn and you know you're going to win this turn, or you just need to go a little bit farther mana wise, or you want to look a little bit deeper card wise. You can pop this Reign of Filth off, and it's, yes, you can use it in a turbo brew because you're in instant speed turbo, but you can also just use it. It's turn 4 or 5. You got 4 or 5 lands out. That's 4 or 5 more cards. That's 4 or 5 more mana that you get to play with. Granted, it's black mana, but that's to help push out our tutors or whatever. Not so. I want to ask how you felt about this as a possible conclusion. Notably, it is more of a TTC card because I love playing explosively. Like, I personally would like play a Reign of Filth over the super powerful but can't be denied the Grim Hireling, just because like Grim Hireling is on board. People say, oh, this guy's the threat, versus just saying like they don't know I have Reign of Filth in hand. So it allows me to play more to my cards to my chest kind of play style until I'm ready to say Silence Effect, Reign of Filth. Now y'all thought I was tapped out. In reality, I have all the men I need to finish out the game. But I want to ask you how you felt about this.
Yeah, that's a great card. I play that Rograk Rayhan, and it's won me a lot of games. Yeah. That deck is go for it. I guess this is teetering on that go for it. Like, if I am drawing a bunch of cards and there's times I get choked up on mana and I only have the 1 mana left, like I draw a bunch and then I can only play 1 more land, and then I play that 1 land, and Reign of Filth would let me maybe sack 3 lands to go ahead and cast or sack 2 lands and cast an Animate Dead, or sack 2 lands. So that's a very that's a good call out. That's something I will definitely think about. But there's a lot that I could replace that.
Or notably, my apology, but notably just trigger your planar void as many times as many lands you have. So like, I think it'd be cool, but you were about to say something real quick at the end there, brother. My bad.
Yeah, no, I am saying it's just it's one I'll have to think about. Yeah, I could probably put that in over Grim Hireling, and that would give me a little lower curve, and keep me. I mean, I have so many 1 and 2 drops that I only have 4 4-drop permanents and 4 4-drop. Yeah, it's 8 4-drops. So I mean it. But I guess the flares I should make those 0s. But I don't think I'll ever hard cast a flare. Those are
likewise. I don't think you will either, especially with
that's a great call out though. It's definitely something I'll have to think about. I'm not gonna make that decision right now, but I'm on it, and I love it in Rogray. Like, when you just need those extra mana, like sometimes you just need 1 mana, or not 1, but like 2 more mana. Yeah. And it's just like, that gets you there.
100%. Yeah. Starting turn 3, it turns into a dark ritual if you've made all your land drops. I fucking love it. But lastly, we do have a couple more questions from the audience before we get into our lovely playtest hands. First we have is starting off with Newsome is asking the question, or more of a statement of, I want to know how you play through OBM. So you've been playing this for a few weeks now. So how has it been navigating Orcish Bowmasters?
So I will say, the one time I've seen an Orcish Bowmaster, the person I was playing, they pitched it and turned 0 to a Gemstone Caverns, and I was elated. And I was like, thank you. Like, you that card ends me. That's I mean, I have a lot of instant speed removal, so there's reasons for that. Like, that is very much a card that I'm thinking about, but I'm not gonna sit there and play around it. If it comes down, then it's gonna kill every single one of my Putrid Imps dying to that, unless I have Threshold. Like, what's nice is Tireless Tribe, I can pitch a card to make it a 0/4 if they're keep trying to OBM it, if like I'm trying to go for a win. But yeah, I mean, I can sack and make all my stuff indestructible for a turn with the Flare. Yep. I can, if that's their biggest creature, I can also Flare of Malice if they maybe just have one. If they flash it in, they just have that as a 2-drop and it's in play. Yeah. But Agatha Soul Cauldron can put 1/1 counters on things to keep them alive. But I guess at that point I need to Orcish Bowmaster their Orcish Bowmaster. But Deadly Relic, Damn, I have a ton of stuff. Imp's Mischief, I can change. Oh, is it spell only? Damn, change target.
No, it's okay.
I thought it's.
Yeah, that notably the epiphany you just came to is why I don't run Misdirection in many lists, because Misdirection also only hits spells and not abilities. Like, if we got spoiled with Deflecting Swat and all the other like Fork type effects. I think Forks hit abilities too. I can't remember, but not the point. But yeah, no, like I agree with you. I think that how we deal with OBM is sometimes you gotta have your own OBM, or sometimes don't run OBM so you don't have to introduce it to the game. So we get into the whole clone argument of like, oh, I clone your OBM with my 5 or my 2 to 3
I kill your OBM. No, I got it. Yeah, because if they just start pointing that at my face, like, I played a game. I will talk a little bit about gameplay. I played a game where somebody was playing their commander was the same colors as white black, and it was the Cabal that says every time you make a token, everybody loses a life.
Yeah.
And they had a Smothering Tithe in play, and it was like the first time I was playing the deck. It was literally my first game playing the deck, and I went into a draw loop, and I lost 2 life every time I drew 1 card, and I was like, whoa. So I drew like 10 cards, lost 2 life. They ended up having like 13 treasures after that, and I was like, I'm sorry. Like they had 0 cards in hand, so I was fine feeding them that many treasures, but I did end up like having to kill my own commander to just stop that loop, because I was like, yeah, I can't, like that's terrible to play around.
100%. Yeah.
I was tapped out of mana, so like I was like, I gotta stop. Like I'm giving that way too many. But like things like that, yeah, it's tough. And you know, every deck has their weaknesses, and that's definitely when you're drawing this many cards and paying this much life, like that's definitely one I have to think about.
No, 100%. I definitely hear what you said. Yeah, it's something to think about. But I will say I'm kind of in the camp with you where just fucking remove the Bowmasters, guys. Like I know it, like sometimes you don't have it, sometimes you do have it, but that's the beauty of Magic. You know, it's magical. It's magically delicious.
And at the end of the day, if they kill all my creatures, I have Animate Deads. I got 3 of them in the deck. I have a ton of Tutors.
Yeah.
And depending on what cards I can draw or dig for, I have a lot of removal spells. So
100%.
Also they can't kill KETRAMOSE. So
yeah,
at the end of the day, Orcish Bowmaster doesn't kill KETRAMOSE. So.
Yeah, I think he's more speaking on hitting you in the face, but it's kind of like a thing where like you've explained that you at the end of the day you have a choice how far you want. You don't have to. You have the choice on how far you want to dig, and they start pinging you in the face with every dig. You draw 1 card, they ping you for 1. In the same example you came out with the Cabal, you can always decide when you want to stop and say, hey, this is not a good point. Let me just stop here and set up for the next play. Or choosing, I want to go all the way and I'm willing to go down to 10 life to find that 1 removal spell for this Bowmasters that's problematic for me. It's kind of like a different play, different stroke for different folks, and finding that time in the board state where it may be viable. But I will say, but go ahead.
Walking Ballista on 2 takes it out too.
That's the thing.
There's just tons of random things you can take it out with.
True. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you just pay 1/1 and it's 2 mana just to kill it. Yeah, I ain't mad at that. But we could talk about this all day about the what ifs of Bowmasters. What if the Bowmasters? Now it's a card that probably should get banned, but I ain't gonna tell people how to play Magic. What I will tell you though is before we get into these playtest hands, if you all are looking for more ways to support the show, we have a plethora. Starting off with our TC community. Please join us free on Discord. We talk about spoilers. We talk about brewing. We talk about jamming games. We talk about all the amazing things when it comes to playing Magic Gathering in this amazing format that we love, which is cEDH. But if you want to have extra perks like playing our live streams, shouts on our YouTube videos and streams, and as well as our free proxies and discount codes, that is our TC Proxy company. I just want to say, check out the Thunder Legion Discord community. We have an amazing, some amazing gentlemen and women there. Honestly, I just want to give a huge shout out to Wavy Ashira, Bissy Baxton, the Praetor, and B-Rad. These guys rock, and they keep the lights on the way that they could not imagine. But if you say AT, I don't want none of that. I don't want the Patreon, the proxies, or the perks. I just want to say one time for the fun time that I love what you do, and I want to support you. Don't worry. Check the link out in the bio. You can keep me up and keep the lights on by just simply making that small contribution. But with that said, come on, bruh. We got to do some playtest hands, man. And so, as I always do, I will be rolling a D8 to tell us what turn we're in. And we're going to create a simulated pod for you. So let's see it. Yep. We rolled a 3. So we're going second. We'll say this pod is a good little mingle. I'm going to throw you a little challenge. We're going to say Rockside is going first. Then you're going second. Third will be T&T. That's Tim the Thrashios. And fourth will be... let's say, Hashaton. Okay, so we have 2 Esper decks, a Grixis deck, and then we have a Grixis deck, and then we have you at second seat. Okay, sorry. Walking Ballista.
It is
some removal and combo. Mox Opals are only mana in hand. We also have
no, it's not keepable.
Yep. Yeah, it's just
next.
All right, second. we have, okay, we got a lot of mana. We have a Plains, a City of Traders, a Soul Ring, and a Talisman of Hierarchy is our ramp. Notably, we do also have a Sarah's Ascended as life gain and a beater, as well as our exile effects will be Parallel Waves, and the Planar Void is in our opening hands. And once again, we do have a Plains, Soul Ring, and a Talisman Hierarchy as our ramp.
You had me at turn 1 Planar Void. Yeah, no, that's a keep. You definitely here you go. Well, you can't turn 1 the Planar Void, but you can. I guess you can go City of Traders into City of Traders into Soul Ring into Talisman into
question
the Planar Void.
Yeah, is there a reason you would choose the City of Traders over the Plains?
You're right. I probably would do Plains, Seer Ascendant, and then next turn I can
No. As in Soul Ring.
Oh, you're right. So turn 1, yeah, Plains, Soul Ring, Talisman, Seer Ascendant. Yeah, that's probably what I'd do because Planar Void doesn't matter yet. Oh, okay. My commander's not in play.
Yeah. I see what you're saying over what I was thinking. I was thinking you want to do Planar Void turn 1, but not only are you playing around a Mind Break trap, you also notably can start putting on some life gain beats. So then if you draw another land source, you can drop a turn 2 Planar Void plus a turn 2 commander and have the
and I'm
sense.
hoping Rogside doesn't just win off of the turn 2. Like if they have a turn 2 win, like this isn't 6 months ago, so I'm not as worried about a turn 2 win.
That's fair.
So getting a Sierra Ascendant down also can put pressure on the Rogside players' Adnaz. So I can start cracking them. Yeah, this is actually really good because I could even I get Planar Void down and my commander, I think, depending on what we draw. Because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have 6 mana on my next turn, which is I cast. Well, I guess it depends. I don't know if I get my commander down turn 2 or not.
That one is more dependent on if you draw the colored source. So if we are keeping this hand, we can do a top deck.
Yeah, I would definitely keep this.
Yeah,
keep this.
Okay, so we'll do our first draw for turn will be a Winds of Abandon. Notably, it is 6 mana on turn 2. So if you wanted to,
I could just Winds of Abandon if everybody drops all their creatures down.
Hypothetically speaking, that may push you more to do Planar Void turn 1 instead of Saracen. I'm just throwing stuff out there. You don't have effect, so you technically had a second draw, which would be a Confessor. So we drew a Winds of Abandon turn 1 and a Confessor turn 2. How are we feeling going into turn 1 and then drawing this Confessor turn 2?
Yeah, so Winds of Abandon, like even if I do cast Saracen, Winds of Abandon hits not my permanent, so it would exile all the other players. Yeah, so
you're 100%.
The only, and then like Rogsai, I don't know how many basics they play these days. Probably not any. I would say maybe not any. Maybe one. It depends on the player. I always have one of everything, of my colors. That's just how I play. But yeah, the Confessor doesn't matter right now, but it will matter like maybe later game. But
yeah,
I mean, getting my commander down in this Planar Void is not possible on the next turn. So
yeah,
depending on what everybody else casts, like if everybody's getting their commanders out, I might Winds of Abandon, and people might just be like, yeah, I'm not going to counter that. Like I'd actually probably rather have all the other commanders off the table, and it depends. But getting your commander out too is definitely a possibility, but it doesn't push you forward at this point.
I got you.
The Planar Void might be more needed.
Okay. So then before we hit Playtest Hand 2, before seeing the Winds of Abandon, the Confessor, we still think the turn 1 Sarah is over the turn 1 Planar to play around the Mindbreak Trap, as well as putting pressure on Rocksai's life with the Sarah Ascendant, or seeing these two new cards, did that make you feel more bullish on the Planar Void turn 1?
I guess it really depends on what they do.
I hear that.
If Rogsai starts like pitching like cast a bunch of like ramp and getting stuff in the graveyard, I might do Planar Void, just because like if their next thing is an Underworld Breach, I shut that completely down
100%,
and that might be the way I go. But I mean, I really like the idea of Saracen turn 1 to just start popping people for 6.
I hear that 100%. Okay, that sounds good. That's an amazing, I'm with Mike on this one. That's a top tier hand right there. So let's see our last playtest hand. We will roll a D8 again. It is a 7, so this time we're going fourth. Let's say seat 1 is a Timna Crom, seat 2 is a Kennen, seat 3 is, just because we're expecting to see in the meta, is a Hashaton, and you will be seat 4. First 7 is 2 lands, being Godless Shrine and Windswept Heath. We have a Esper Sentinel for our card draw. We also notably do have a Ghost Vacuum for our 1-mana artifact. Notably, do have the full Abdel Adrian plus Dance of the Dead combo in hand, as well as a as well as a Fairy Macabre, being that discard Fairy Macabre to exile 2 cards. So how are we feeling about this first 7 seat?
I'm loving this hand.
I'm right there. Yeah, when I said 2 lands in Esper, I don't give a fuck where it's like.
Turn 1 Esper, see what we draw.
Nope. Oh yeah. Go ahead. I don't want to. Yeah, go ahead, brother.
I'd probably Windswept Heath here, so nobody like stops me from searching later. So I'm always a fan of cracking first. Get that Esper down immediately. Yeah. If anybody tries any graveyard shenanigans, this next couple turns, they're not. Yeah. Go to turn 2, I can go ahead and. I mean, honestly, it would almost be tempting to just not cast a spell and draw a card and pitch Abdel turn 1 and just have nothing. That's kind of tempting.
No. Can I actually, that is similar to what I was going to say. Not exactly. What I actually had in mind is if you progress, granted, it is seat 4, but if you can progress this turn 1 Esper, land Esper, there's a possibility that they give you enough cards that with the discard. Including the draw for turn, you could start Abdel turn 2, but it just would mean you just wouldn't cast anything depending on how much they feed you. Now, if they feed you a lot, you could still progress the Ghost Vacuum and have that graveyard hate and still discard the Abdel. But if they just only give you enough cards where you're at 8 cards once you draw for turn, I'd say fuck all that. Well, hope still progress your land drop and see what you can do to maybe But like I personally I would trust the Esper can get you to discard down a hand.
If I didn't have the Esper in here, it would be tempting to do that. But I would totally play the Esper. But that's not interesting to have just the combo in hand, because just Abdel and Dance of the Dead makes me 10 billion 1/1s. So it's just pass turn. If you don't board wipe, I have 10 billion 1/1s.
And we don't run a lot of board wipes in the meta right now. I'm just call it straight to say we don't. So I definitely hear.
So I'm on 2.
Okay, you know what I'm saying?
Start taking out creatures.
So if we're keeping this I believe this was a second 7, or no, this is the first 7.
No, this is first 7.
God dang, you getting the good hands. Let's see what that first draw is for turn seat 4. It is a Dranith Magistrate, which notably I didn't refresh. This is switched out for our silence effect. So this field, this got switched out for our silence effect. So this is just reading to me, just land Esper. Set up for a protected Abdel win on like turn 3 seat 4.
Yeah, and that's if I didn't draw any extra cards, right? That's if nobody fed the Esper, depending on what they feed me.
Well, that's the what's it called? That is the notably. This one is just the draw for turn. Like if we were to do the Esper draws, if you just went led Esper.
Yeah.
Like let me see, roll a D8. I got a 6, so we'll say you just drew 3 cards off this one first rotation. 1, 2, 3.
Thanks, table.
Yeah, let's hypothetically, at least that's how I play. I roll a D4 or D8 and just say 1 to 4. They drew you Dark Ritual, the One Ring, and the Grand Abolisher. That's more protection on top of the take out Dranith, adding the silence effect.
And now I can pitch Abdel. I can pitch Abdel on my turn.
You can you go. Yeah, you go because you've already played 1, 2, 3 cards. You play your land. That leaves you with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards in hand. You just say, I'm just gonna play land, pass, discard Abdel, and then. If they Graveheart hate away, it's fine. We have other win lines, but at that point, you are pretty much set up to do a turn.
Go dark writ.
Yeah, if you can. So this is the tough thing.
I wish I could get Grand Abolisher down before I dark writ.
You have an Esper on board, so you can just. We can roll another D8 to see how many cards you get, but
it's true.
Hypothetically, the hypothetical's going. What I do see this, at least if it was me, is this is game, technically speaking, because you have that ability to progress the One Ring. The only tough thing is though, because Abdel plus the One Ring plus the Dance of Dead is just you draw your deck. The only tough thing is though, you are bringing up a very good point about the wanting to progress the Grand Abolisher, and I just think that just saying like if I draw one source of white go Grand Abolish for 1 land open. They say, okay, what the fuck is he doing here? Push that Dark Ritual out for Dance of the Dead. Now, if you draw a instant speed enabler, whether it being your Liberator, Urza's Battlethopter, maybe, yeah, what's your instant speed enablers? You have the E-Zone, the Shimmermere. Scout Warning doesn't work with these. Never mind. You'd have to draw the what's it called off it. So then you may want to turn 3 the One Ring. I'm telling you, my bad. This is your deck. Yeah. I'm just thinking like this is exciting because I think this is a really powerful deck. I'm not gonna lie. This is the kind of shit I would brew. This is that strong, but please, like, talk to us, brother. I'm talking too much.
Yeah, no, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. You know, I surprisingly haven't hit another land, which is nuts, but I have 2 land in play. I probably, with the decks at the table, I think a One Ring is probably gonna land. A lot of times people aren't countering a One Ring. They're countering people trying to win. So I think I could just get a One Ring down and say, hey, I win on my next turn. Because I will draw, like, there's no way we go around the table with an Esper and a One Ring and I don't draw 1 more land. Because once I get that 1 more land, I can Grand Abolisher. Oh, then I can't Dance the Dead because I used the Deadly Relic.
Well, notably, I think, based off what we said earlier, it will be a turn 1 Esper into a turn 2 do nothing. Because, notably, we didn't draw. Oh, I lied. I'm a fibber. This is actually busted. So we didn't draw for turn when I did that last thing. We draw 1 more for turn, which is a Putrid Imp. So that's
discard outlet.
Yeah, that solves the Abdel Adrian problem because you you can either go at this point a turn 2 the One Ring into a turn 3 if you draw 1 more source, land source, either off the One Ring or whatever not. I personally at this point would probably hold on to the Dark because if you can get rid of the Abdel, you can go Dark. You can go Grand Abolisher into Dark, Putrid, Dance. You know, however you want to do it, but it's so many lives you can do here at this point, and you have draws off your Esper and draws off the One Ring to help get you there. If you feel what I'm saying.
Yeah. That's the nut saying. That's what I mean. Like sometimes you can just this deck can.
Fuck, that's crazy.
Can go crazy on turn 3, but and then if we do go long ring.
Oh, my bad. Keep cutting off, my bad, brother. Go ahead.
You're good. And if we do go long game, like I'm already set up for a really good long game, but I also could just win. Like
that's what I'm saying. Fuck. This is a TTC type of hand. I would keep this and be screaming on my inside. This is so cool. I really love this deck, bro. This is my my favorite deck you've ever brewed and came on the channel for it. Not to shoot shit on Jolly Balloon Man. That was a great deck. This is my type of deck. Fuck.
Yeah, and we're not even playing the commander where if we do go late game, I can play my commander, start Ghost Vacuuming, got a Putrid Imp. Like if they do stop my line for infinite ETBs, like I do have a Putrid Imp. I got Ghost Vacuum. You know, I'm gonna be able to draw cards. I can cast my commander. Fair Macabre, like exile something in somebody's graveyard if they try to do any graveyard shenanigans with Underworld Breach or anything. To also Grand Abolish. Like, I mean, this is hands nuts.
Literally, yeah. And at this point,
I would be very happy.
Hopefully this doesn't come up in gameplay. No, but hopefully it does come up in gameplay because faster wins means more games. But yeah, man, honestly, bruh, like fantastic deck tech, fantastic playtest hands. The last thing I just have to say to you is, do you have any closing remark for anyone who's just wondering, like, I love what you said, B, but I just need 1 more selling point to really get me on the KETRAMOSE train. Like, do you have anything you want to share?
Yeah, I would say, you know, once again, I just want to point out this deck is definitely, I don't have to say like very experienced players, but if you're newer to cEDH, the deck is very complicated. So I would say, you know, learn it. You know, this is not a deck you're going to be able to just copy a list and throw it up and then just like play it. You know, there's some decks you can do that with, but it is a complicated deck. There is a lot of triggers and there's a lot of nuances to learn. We covered them all. I will also say I'm not on Necropotence. It is something I fight with every single moment. The fact that I can have so many discard outlets and that just lets me discard cards and they get exiled for my commander, like I get that, and it is something I struggle with on whether it needs to be in the list or not. I have had moments where KETRAMOSE has gotten somebody played a Dranith and you can't get KETRAMOSE down, and the deck works fine without it, without KETRAMOSE, but it is really important to have KETRAMOSE in play. So
Yeah.
Necropotence would counter the hurt of not having it. So it is something that I may end up putting in fairly soon, but as of now, it's not in the deck. But yeah, if you like playing these colors, if you like silence effects, if you like drawing your deck and having to like string together the win, this is definitely a deck for you. If you enjoy, like, it's a big puzzle, right? Like, you're drawing like 10 cards and you need to say, these are the 10 cards, this is how much mana I have, what can I do to either draw a couple more cards, or what can I do to win here or set up my win for next turn? So there is a lot of that. So there's a lot of, you know, thought that goes into, you know, each and every turn. But if you love drawing cards and you don't want to play Ristic Study, like, here's the deck. Here's a deck for you. I'm having a blast. Like,
no, honestly, man, thank you again, B, for coming on, bro, and just thank you for sharing that point. Like, y'all, if you don't like drawing cards, maybe cEDH ain't for you. But all jokes aside, I just want to say once again, a huge thank you to B-Rad. Thank you for the amazing community, for just being interacting and giving us great feedback and responses for this amazing deck tech and this awesome high ground gaming B-Rad brew. So if you all are interested to see some gameplay, we are about to get that into a second. But also know, please check out the link in the bio to see high ground gaming B-Rad play this deck. He notably, like I brought it before, had the awesome gameplay with Cam from Play to Win, and you will be seeing this deck more and more on this channel. But before we let y'all go, if you're looking for more ways to support the channel, we have a plethora, starting out with our TC community, free to join Discord. Come on, talk about spoilers, talk about brewing, talk about jamming games, talk about everything you love to do with Magic the Gathering and cEDH. But if you say, AT, I want to be able to do a little bit more, I want to be able to play on your live streams, I want the shout outs on the YouTube videos and streams, and I also want to get the free proxies and discount codes, don't worry, I got you. Check out the Thunder Legion Patreon community. These guys are awesome. They keep the lights on in a way that they could not imagine. As always, I have to give a huge shout out to Wavy Ashira, the Bissy Baxton, and the Prater, and B-Rad, because they keep the lights on. I just can't stop saying it. They really help me continue to do what I do, which is to provide you all awesome deck techs and gameplays on the weekly basis. But if you say, AT, I want to support you, but I don't want the monthly commitment, I just want to say one time for the fun time, I love what you do, and I want to support you. Don't worry, check out the link in the bio. You can buy me a coffee. It keeps me up and keeps the lights on. But with that said, I love y'all, and I'll see y'all soon in this KETRAMOSE gameplay. Peace.